Hello, welcome to today's episode of the Group Therapy Podcast. Today we have horror host, legend, the man behind the Monster Channel, Halloween Jack himself. Halloween.
Hey. Well, kind of Halloween Jack, not Jack right now, but yeah, always Jack in here.
Yep.
Always. Hey, thank you, man, for tapping me to do this. I've been watching your videos and I love them, and I'm flattered, really flattered you asked me.
Yeah, you are right now. It's like everybody's operating on this level, and you're just this level above.
Oh, man.
And but you know, I found you, I don't know, like 10 years ago, maybe 11 years ago, I believe. You were at Horror Hound one year, and I went into the room with all the horror hosts that they had there that year. And I found, and then so I started trying to find all these other horror hosts. I found you, and then I found you that you had the Monster Channel, and I watched the Monster Channel, and then one day I went to go watch it, and it wasn't there on my Roku no more, so I have to watch it on my computer now. So
please, I know that's an ongoing battle that's been. You know what? Unfortunately, money talks. I mean, you know, if you want to, if you have that kind of money to pay for it, I would love it to look like something like Shudder. I mean, I don't ever see any of this stuff as competition. I love Shudder. I love Tubi. Tubi's great, man. Tubi's got some awesome, really cool stuff on it. And you know, we've aspired. I've gotten the channel to look like what I wanted it to look like. I mean, we've been at it for gosh, 12 years. Matter of fact, March of next year is going to be the 13th anniversary, and we're planning some big stuff to do before then. But I mean, I finally have gotten this channel look like what I've wanted it to, which was, like I said, something we watched as kids, whether it was a channel in the 60s, 70s, 80s, you know, with all the retro commercials and everything. And we'd like to spread it and share it as much as possible, but it's just getting to that point now where technology is giving us all these venues to do it.
Oh yeah.
But you know, money, money's the big issue. I mean, you know, we're nonprofit, and you know, we don't get anything for what we're doing here at all. So we are thinking of Patreon, because a lot of people are turning to that now. So yeah, we're working on it. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see where it goes.
I've decided, as of a couple weeks back, I decided I'm going to start a Patreon, because I do it like you. I do it 100%. I don't make a penny, but I got invited to my first con, and I'm like, well, now I got to come up with money to go pay for going to the con.
Oh, which
Haunted Screams Expo in Hampton Beach, Virginia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not too far from me, actually.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I would love to go to all these conventions, but, you know, I'm not going to say anything, but gas prices and, you know, even renting a car or anything right now, I mean, it's making it next to impossible. But, yeah, there's a lot of good shows. Matter of fact, I'd love to get to Horror Hound. We get, you know, one coming up in September.
Yeah.
And, matter of fact, I don't know if you heard about it. I think they're pushing it all over the place about Hack and Slash.
Yep.
And that big wrestling thing going on. Again, that's not too far from me. I'd like to just show up and rush the ring. You know,
it's a bit of a drive. It's like 5 hours for me, but I got family that lives down by there, so it's not like I can go. Okay, well, I can just go visit my uncle that lives like 15 minutes away.
Well, you never know.
Yeah,
it's about 4 hours for me. So I mean, you never know. You just might show up and kick both their asses. You know. Yeah, right.
I started this. I'm going to.
Yeah.
I'm the old man.
Let me tell you, brother.
Well, the funny part about it is that I have friends that are wrestlers, and I have a friend that has a wrestling organization here locally. And
wow.
One of my good friends, he's been trying to con me in for like the last 10 years to get in the ring. And I'm like, dude, at this point, I'm 48. I was like, I do not want to get in the ring at 48. I was like, don't get me wrong. I go to the gym all the time. I got good cardio. I'm fit. But man, when my body gets hurt, it takes forever.
And that's the problem, because there was a group of guys that I actually had. It was weird. It's just how everything just connects together, because I was doing, when I was still doing my show on Cablevision, they were doing a backyard wrestling show, and you know how wrestling frowns upon that. Yep. So I popped in their tape and I was watching their show, and I said, well, you know what? These guys aren't like a lot of the backyard things I saw before, where they're just trying to hurt each other. They actually had characters. They actually were doing vignettes and stuff like that. So I kind of hooked up with them, helped train them, and they actually have their own federation now, and they're doing really well in New Jersey. I mean, they've got a lot of big names connected with them now. But I went back 2 years ago to do some in-ring stuff with them, and I'm telling you, it took me about 3 to 4 days to recover after that. You think in your 40s, wait till you get in your 60s. And God bless Ric Flair and all of them, you know, that they can still do that. But I mean, I went and did it, and I was like, oh man, was I hurt? I mean, just like 1 or 2 days after, I was like, damn, what the hell happened?
But
it was fun. It was a blast.
Oh man,
if you can do it, I would recommend it.
I want to kind of do something like maybe do I was going to do like run-ins one time, and then that kind of got sidetracked, but I don't know. I screwed up my shoulder, geez, like 3 weeks ago, and
oh man,
I kept working out because I'd be like, one day it would hurt, and then I'd go to the gym, and it would feel good. Then the next day I'd be like, I can't move my arm, it hurt. I couldn't sleep. I'd wake me up every 5 minutes because I'd roll over on it. And then finally, my wife's like,
that not too long ago. Damn. Like, gosh, you sound like two old men. Jeez, what the hell? Yeah.
My wife looked at me. She goes, "Stop exercising your arm. Just go to the gym. If you got to go to the gym, do cardio, do legs. You're fine." So I did that I'm still doing that right now, and I'm just now getting where I can do weights again, and it's still like,
Oh, it's good, man. That's cool. Well, you never know. Like I said, maybe we'll show up in Knoxville and teach them both.
There we go.
No, I'm really looking forward to that. That's really cool. I love what they're doing, and man, the insults are flying.
Oh man, I've gotten to talk to Hack. Slash is coming up hopefully this week.
Oh, cool.
So hopefully sometime in the next few days I'll have him on. And it seems like every time we've had a planned meeting, something happened and it kind of fell through, but that's life. So
that's the world of horror hosting. Period.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to get anybody to do anything, like everybody says, it's like wrangling cats. But
I would go one step and say it's probably like wrangling squirrels.
If you got Hack and Slash, you're doing okay.
Oh man, and I talked to Slash online. I talked to Hack here and there, and a good bunch of guys. There's
oh, absolutely,
so much fun.
I always make this analogy. I was involved in a lot of organizations in my lifetime. I mean, I was actually like a deacon in my church. I was vice president of the PTA for like 10 years, and I was in wrestling, and then I'm in horror. And I'm telling you, the best people to deal with were in horror and wrestling, and the worst was at church and the PTA. I'm telling
I can see that.
Now, the guys, I mean, people in horror, there's just something about them. I mean, it's like I've always said, they're so focused and passionate about this, and that's a good thing to have, to have a focus. And yeah, great people, absolutely great people. All the horror hosts, great people, most of them. Most.
I got lucky in my life. I got to meet my local horror host that I grew up with, which was Dr. Creep.
Oh man, Barry.
I was friends with Andy Kopp because this is how I'm going to go. I lived in Tip City, not far from where I live now. I'm sitting there watching TV one night and Shock Theater's on. I'm like, oh,
Wow.
Theater's back on. So I watched it, and then after the end of that episode, he goes, "Do you want to have your own show on public access?" And I'm like, "I think I do." And I went down the street because it was 2 blocks. The TV station was 2 blocks away from my house. I walked in, and there was Andy Kopp, and me and him started talking. And he's like, "If you want to do a show, do it." And I created Group Therapy then, and it was a public access show then. And then I would go in there, and I remember the one night I went in there and to go do work on my show. So I was going in to edit, and I hear the ha ha, and I'm like, and I end up sitting there. I didn't do anything on my show. All I did was listen to him tell stories like for hours. And I'm like, so I got lucky enough to be like the guy I grew up liking. I met him, and I wouldn't say we were friends. We were acquaintances. We met each other a few times, but it was so cool. And then through those guys, I've met like Matt Brassfield, and then I've met Baron von Porkchop and A. Ghastly Ghoul, and it just kept going further. And then I started meeting them further out, and then it's like, okay, I've met people as far out as Las Vegas, down into Virginia, North Carolina, a lot of Pennsylvania, Indiana, a lot of Ohio.
Wow.
So
I'll tell you, that's a great feeling to meet those guys. I mean, I got to be friends with Barry, Dr. Creep, hung out with him at several conventions, and what a sweetheart of a guy he was. And he went to one of the first or second Horror Hounds, but he was hospitalized. Like he was there on Friday night, but then he was starting to have problems. So he called me after that weekend, and I had been planning on doing a comeback with my show at the time. Mm-hmm. And I believe he was in a like not a nursing home, but a facility like that at that point.
Yeah.
And he called me up, and I'll tell you what, he was gushing. He was so excited about Horror Hound. He was so excited about all the new horror hosts he met. I mean, that's what I have to say. I mean, I've gotten to meet a lot of these people, and I've been really blessed. I mean, to meet Stella from Philadelphia. I got to meet Zachary. I got to meet Dr. Creep, Fritz the Night Owl. I mean, I've hung out with him, worked with him, and I'll tell you what, these guys, they're such class acts. They're so magnanimous with their time, and they're so grateful that people remember them. But I'm telling you, Barry was so excited, and it was unfortunate because he passed away soon after that. I mean, he kept saying, "Oh, I want to film something for your show," and and it never happened. And that's one thing that I always say to the horror hosts: if you have an idea and you want to do something, don't wait.
Yeah, jump on it.
Jump on it now, because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, it's unfortunate. I've lost a lot of horror host friends over the past 10 years, and people that now I look back on, I regret that. Wow, I never did anything with them. So that's aside from when people come up and ask me about how to become a horror host, I always say don't. That's my thing. Kidding around.
Yeah.
And tell them, well, look, you're not going to be doing this for money, so. No. If you have the passion to do it, go ahead and do it. But I mean, my big advice is, you have an idea, do it. You never know. You never know. And Barry was so cool. He was, again, big bear of a guy.
Oh yeah.
Sweetheart with a heart just as big. All the charity work he did and everything.
Yep.
And again, I'm happy you got to meet him and hang out with him. I mean, I feel very fortunate. I did too. Yeah. And it's funny that you're saying that. I mean, because that's what always happens. It's like the American Scary documentary. I was there filming my part when Joe Bob Briggs and Zachary were there, and it's like I didn't even want to do my own thing. Just sitting there and listening to these guys and the stories they had to tell, especially Zachary. I mean, another guy that another person I got to meet and semi-call friend, and he was such a great guy,
Yeah. I was going through some old albums I got off a guy, and I legitimately have a Zachary 45.
Oh, wow.
It's like Dinner with Drac. And I can't remember what the other side is. And it's legitimately like it was hanging on the wall at the shop. And somebody goes, Is that the horror host guy? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, made a record? I'm like, "Nah, probably everybody made a
Oh
record."
my gosh, he made
Yeah.
several albums, and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, he did a ton of stuff.
Oh,
He did
man.
a ton of stuff. I got to tell you, the coolest thing, um, I got to do an introduction video to introduce him when he was inducted to the Hall of Fame, because neither one of us could go to Horror Hound at that time.
Mhm.
And that's where it was going to take place. So Count Gore and Carlos Borloff, another guy you should talk to.
I've talked to Carlos. Yes.
Oh man,
You
another one.
don't
What a
talk to
character!
him. He talks. He's 100 mile an hour from.
Yes, he is,
Yes.
and great guy. I mean,
Yep.
another big-hearted guy. They asked me. They said, "Well, we're going to go to Manhattan, and we're going to, hook up with Zachary. Do you want to come and do the introduction for his Hall of Fame?" I was like, "Oh my God, yeah, hell yeah!" So we went there, and it was the coolest thing because I know the guy's name. First name was Vincent. I don't remember his name, but he was the one that was working with Zachary a lot near the end of his life, and he was the one primarily that did the filming for Zachary. So we were going to his house because Zachary's studio where he filmed his things was in this guy's house. So we go in and we're standing there, and the guy's like, "Okay, we're going to go down to the basement where the studio is," and we're all looking around like, "Well, where's the door?" He goes over to his bookcase and pulls the bookcase open. And I was like, holy crap, that was the coolest thing. And you went down the basement and there was, Zachary's. I don't know if you've seen some of the later things he did, like Horrible Horror, and where he's got that American Werewolf in London figure. But I'm telling you, it's so amazing. I mean, first off, I'm like, damn, a bookcase that, but just to be on that set with him. And again, a guy that was so warming and welcoming to all of us and filming all this stuff. And again, very fortunate. I feel very fortunate that I've gotten to meet these guys, all of them.
Yeah.
Great people.
Well, it's one of the things that the reason I started doing this show was that I loved horror hosts when I was a kid. I had Dr. Creep. Then as I got older, I kind of thought that it had disappeared. Mm-hmm. Then I found it, like I said, at Horror Hound that one year when I found all the horror hosts. I'm like, oh man. And I bought some DVDs at the time. And then I started finding a bunch of people on YouTube or on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that. And then I started finding their YouTube pages. So I started watching that. And then at my comic shop, I started putting it on in the background some days when I'm just like,
oh wow,
yeah. And it's funny because I have people come up and I have, everybody from high school kids, junior high kids up to, 60s, 70s year olds coming in. And some of them like sitting there watching it, like, what is this? I'm like, it's a horror host. And they're like, what's a horror host? I'm like, well, sit down, children. Let me tell you a story. And they'll sit there and they'll watch it, they'll get into it. And I'm like, that's the whole point.
And that's cool. That is so cool. I mean, because I've gotten emails from younger people too. It's like they've found this wonderful magical thing all of a sudden that they never knew about before existed. And it's so cool to sit there and watch them react to it. And I mean, I get emails from all over the world from people, and young and old. I mean, and I've said this before. I mean, I got a letter from a guy in Liechtenstein, and he was blown away when he found Monster Channel, because he said they have one cable channel in Liechtenstein, and it's like, very generic, I suppose. And he said they have nothing like this on TV. So, him finding YouTube and finding the Monster Channel and finding all this other stuff, he was like gushing over it over and over again. And that makes me happy, because that to me is what I'm doing. That's what it's all about. Is I've been doing this for 20 something years, just pushing this out there to everybody, to let everybody see how great and what a great form of entertainment this was, and a great form of escapism too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, with the horror host cutting up and the movies, and I've always said the crappier the movie, the better for us. Because then you really don't want to mess with something good. Like when I hosted Night of the Living Dead, that's my absolutely favorite movie, and I didn't want to do anything to mess it up. So, anything that had that or something with Boris Karloff in, I kind of didn't want to do that. But oh man, you take something like The Killer Shrews and you just can destroy it, and it's funny, so
Oh yeah.
those are the best films. Those are the best ones.
Well, was it last year? I believe last year. I went through and I watched, I don't know, 10 horror hosts in like 3 days. So this is like, since I'm off Thursday. So Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. So I watched all the different horror hosts doing their version of Night of the Living Dead. And everybody's like, "Didn't you just watch Night of the Living Dead?" I was like, "Yeah, but not this version."
Not this one. Well, that's what I tell people, because sometimes, because of scheduling with the channel, sometimes it'll hit me that I want to do a Vincent Price night or something like that. But then I might have already shown somebody hosting House on Haunted Hill the week before. But then I'll play it again, and people will be like, "Well, didn't you just say?" Yeah, but you don't understand. Every host has their own take on it.
Yep.
Sometimes it's like watching a whole totally different movie. The way some of the horror hosts do it, whether it's with their bits, whether it's their drop-ins, like people making fun of it or whatever. Even if they don't mess with the film, just their take on it. It's. I mean, damn, I should do what you did. I mean, that's my favorite movie. I should pull out. And I've got, gosh, I probably have every horror host under the sun hosting that movie.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, I think I watched 10 over 3 days. And it was, because like I love Night of the Living Dead.
Oh gosh,
legitimately, it's one of my go-to movies.
Mm-hmm.
I watch it 2 or 3 times a year.
Oh yeah.
And almost every time I watch it, because I just watched the one when Joe Bob ran it recently, and it was the cleaned up, super, clean version of it. And you're watching it and you're like, oh wow, you can see little things from, and I'm like, because it's what the Criterion version of it, I think, is what the ones that they aired. And I'm like, wow, because my old DVD copy isn't that crisp and clear, of course, because that's probably what 13th, 14th generation or something stupid.
Well, I just did a top 20 DVD thing with Raoul Mad Blood, and of course, Night of the Living Dead was my number one, and that's what I was saying on that. That was the very first VHS tape I ever had owned. And when you saw these later DVDs coming out, you're right. It was like watching a whole totally different movie. Because, like I said, there was a scene where Ben had the, one of the zombies on the ground, and he's, hitting him with the crowbar, and the other zombie comes up behind him. Now, on my original tape, it was so dark you didn't see the zombie until you saw his hand come into view on his shoulder.
Yep.
When I got one of the better DVDs later on, you could see that zombie coming from a mile away, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is like watching a whole totally different." I never saw that before.
Oh yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I've seen the 4K. I mean, some of the 4K stuff they have out now, and some of the Blu-rays of some of these films, I can't believe how good they look. I mean, when we were hosting, gosh, when the bunch of us started hosting, like back in 99, 2000, like that. I mean, the copies of the movies we had back then were terrible. Even store-bought ones. I mean, a lot of us relied on, bootleg copies that you got from conventions and stuff like that. But I mean, even some of the DVDs that you had gotten of these old movies were crappy looking, even on DVD. But now, oh my gosh, I can't get over how good everything looks. Yeah, it almost looks too good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I had this discussion the other day. Tell me what you think. I have actually backtracked one full generation. So I've gotten away from watching my Godzilla movies in Blu-ray and better. I've gone back to DVDs, because when you get that super crisp and clear versions of their giant monsters, you see the strings hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah.
Everything just, it's like,
oh yeah. And the zippers and yeah. So yeah, I know it kind of kills the magic. Yeah, like I said, it kind of you're better off watching the old crappy versions that we grew up in. I mean, even the ones on television weren't that great, because I remember the Indestructible Man.
Mm-hmm.
with Lon Chaney, and there was a scene where he comes up to this man and woman who had a flat tire, and he helps him change the tire, and it's really weird. Every version of that I had ever seen on TV, when it comes up to that part, it kind of was like had a laggy thing going on to it, like it kind of kept repeating, and it only happened for like 2 or 3 minutes. But then when I got a good DVD version of it, and it didn't have that, it was like almost weird watching it, because it's like owning a record that has a skip in it. You were so used to hearing that skip that when you got a CD and it didn't skip, it was like kind of weird, and that's what I feel about The Indestructible Man. I mean, growing up for so many years, I saw that part and it was skipping, like lagging. And then I saw it later on DVD and I missed that. It was like, it was so weird. It was like really weird watching this normally,
Well, I had this discussion a while back that the one thing I really miss, because I love going to the movies. I love going to the theater. I like sitting in the thing. I miss the hum of the projector. That
yes, yeah.
There's something about that, and it's gone now. And
because everything's digital. Yeah, I mean, that was kind of I went to see gosh, this shows you how often I don't go to the movies anymore. I think the last thing I had seen was Kong, the Skull Island, the newer one. Mm-hmm. That's the last one I went to see, and it was the same thing. It was like I'm looking over where the projector is, and it's not like a projector. It's like all digital, and to me, it wasn't the same thing. It's not, it's not the same experience. And like I said, shelling out is that much money to go see one movie. I mean, I'm a big double feature. Always have been a big double, triple feature fan. Always love to see. Kind of weird how they pair up certain things, and I miss that. Like you said, the hum of the camera, the triple features, and like I said, dating myself because my parents would give me $1, and I could go to the movies and buy popcorn and jujubes and a soda, and pay for the movie and watch 3 movies. Like one of the coolest ones I ever remember was when the last Planet of the Apes movie came out, the Conquest for Planet of the Apes or Battle, whichever one was the last one. And they had this thing at a theater near me. It was called Go Ape for a Day. And it started at 10 o'clock in the morning. And they showed every single Planet of the Apes movie back to back to back, all 5 of them. Mm-hmm. And I was in that freaking theater all day watching that. And I don't know. I mean, there are cultists who, when I say cultists, I mean, fans, drive-in fans who do that kind of thing now at the drive-ins. They might have Dusk to Dawn shows, but man, those were the days. I mean, I sound like my father. I sound like an old fart, but I'm telling you, I understand where he was coming from now when he used to say, well, back when I was a kid, Oh, yeah. This is, I miss all that so much.
Well, that's like my 22-year-old son. Him and I go to the movies a lot. And that's one of our things. Both of us love movies. And I go pick him up at his house and I'm like, all right, let's go to the movies. But I belong to like the club, so I get the discounted tickets and stuff like that. And me and him make fun of the fact is, do you remember when MoviePass came out a few years ago where you could movies for $10 a month? I was like, I know, like there's me, my buddy Dave Henrik, and my buddy Mark. We legitimately, the 4 of us, put that out of business because we went to the movies. My wife would be getting ready to go to work, so she'd be going to bed at night, and I'd be calling my buddy Mark up, and I'd be like, "Hey, what are you doing?" "Nothing. There's a movie. You want to go see it?" "Sure, let's go." So we went to the theater at like 10 o'clock at night because there was nothing else to go.
I'll tell you what I almost put out of business was the popcorn concession. Because the place I went to did that thing where you can get a refill for free. Mm-hmm. And they probably figured, oh, you get a big bucket like that, you might refill it once. You're not going to do. No, I would do it like 3 or 4 times. I'd be like going back. You're back again? Yeah, here.
Yep.
Fill it up. And then I fill it up when I was leaving, to take home. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool. So you were saying 20, I mean, not that I want to interview you, but which is cool, but you said your 22-year-old son, I mean, is his go-to horror too, or is he?
Recently he's really gotten into horror. He was never a horror kid. I never you know, really kind of pushed anything on him or stuff. He just kind of fell
Yeah.
into it. But he's also super analytical, so he just analyzes everything. And
Oh, that's cool.
it's neat because like he gets into stuff like you know, the Russian sci-fi movie Stalker. He likes that.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
he he ran we did a horror fest thing at our shop one night. So around Halloween, we would, when this one side would shut down, we would rearrange the other side. I'd bring in my projector, put in the movies, and we'd show movies up on the wall. And
Cool. Yeah.
one time I was running it, and my wife's like, "Hey," she goes, "Vince isn't feeling good," so I had to run back to my house. I'm like, "Joe, you're in charge," and I was like, "Here's the movies. This is what we're playing." And then I come back at the end of the night, and everybody's like, "Why did you do that to us?" Because it was The Beyond. It was a local movie called "Kill That Bitch." It was a werewolf movie. Society and Cannibal Holocaust. It was the four movies.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And they're like,
Yeah,
there was
yeah. What were you trying to do to them? Jeez.
they were like, there was no palate cleanser. Why did you do
Yeah, you should at least put a cartoon in the middle of all that or something. You know?
that? Um,
Oh my gosh, Society and Cannibal Holocaust back to back.
yep. I don't
Whoa.
know what I'm doing this year. I think I'm gonna do it again this year, but I think I might do like the Forgotten Slashers this time. So like the Prowler,
Oh, the Prowler. You want to?
Humongous, stuff like
What is
that.
that one? Yeah, Humongous would be good. Grim Reaper. That's
Yeah.
another one, man. That's pretty good movie. Um, what the heck would be another? The Mutilator. God,
Yep.
I remember going to see that in the movies. That's not what you expect from a movie called The Mutilator. I
Was
mean,
it?
because it originally was supposed to be called Spring Break or something like that, or I don't know. They changed it, and that's my thing too about them changing the names that to make it. Hey, I mean, if you want a suggestion, well, I don't. It's not a slasher movie, but if you ever do a zombie thing, which I know a lot of people are probably sick of zombies, but there are, I mean, some good obscure ones out there. Let Sleeping Corpses Lie.
Yeah.
That's like one of my favorite zombie films. That'd be a good one to throw in. I mean, if you ever do anything like that,
Yeah.
that's
We're trying to figure it out because I got a ton going on because I am not a person who gives himself any free time.
oh, please. I knew you've heard the old saying. I think you have about
Yeah.
how I work on the Monster Channel. You know, like what is it that the Bone Jangler always says? 27/8. You know, instead of 24/7, I'm working on a 27/8, and 23 hours a day. You know, that he's not far off, but you know, like you said, it's a passion.
Oh
So
yeah, it totally is. It's and it's funny because I've talked to all these horror hosts and stuff, and everybody does it for the fun of it, and it's because everybody's like, if you're doing this for money, don't do it because you're never
no,
going to make any money. They're like, sure, you might make a few dollars, whatever, but it all goes right back into something else, and
hmm
it's I always have because I joke around that I created a character. I had my whole horror host gimmick all worked out. And then I really started studying other horror hosts and was like, wow, I'm not going to be that good. So,
no, you never know. I
so
mean,
I did the Saturday morning route. So I do Sci Fridays and I do Saturday morning serials. And
oh yeah, I was watching some of that. That's cool, man. I love it. I mean, if that's what you found, what was your horror host name going to be? I mean, if you don't mind me asking.
oh no, it's Dr. Edgar Shelley Lovecraft, PhD, not MD. And
Wow, see, that's cool. You should have went with it.
he may get dusted off this year.
Oh, you got it, man. Why not?
Bar-
And I'm telling you, I don't encourage a lot of people to do this, so I'm telling you, I think you should do it. So take me at my word, man. Here,
I will. I got the Baron. The Baron wants me to. Me and him have talked about doing something together, and a
oh,
couple
that'd be
other
cool.
hosts, and
See, that's what I love. Like I said, I love what I love about the horror host community right now. And like I said, I've been involved in it for 23 years, and I mean, yeah, and I'm not going to name any names, but there are hosts who just didn't want to work with anybody else, and hosts who frowned. I mean, I can understand it. That some of the hosts that were on, legitimate TV at the time, and they started seeing people do it on the internet, they frowned upon it, but now they don't. I mean, you can't. I mean, because that's, whatever. What's going on? That cat doing something?
The cat knocked one of my kids' books off the top of my comic box over there.
All right, he's like, pay attention to me.
She's like, yep, I'm up here.
But I mean, it's funny. It's how it's come around to now. Internet horror hosts are legitimate. I mean, and they've always have been, but they weren't accepted by a lot of the hosts. And I think one of the greatest things I see going on now is everybody working together. I would love to see you and Pork Chop get together and do something. I love horror host team ups.
Yeah,
I love them. It's like, being a comic book fan, my favorite comic book was The Brave and the Bold because of the team ups.
Yep.
Seeing some of seeing some of the mixtures of certain heroes like the Creeper and the Atom.
Yep.
So, I love that stuff, and that carried over to me with the horror host.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of people are doing it now, and I mean, Slash works with a lot of people. Octavian Hollow. I mean, I don't know if you saw that his Halloween special he did 2 years ago. He had like everybody on it.
Yeah,
like all of us.
Yeah, I gotta get to watching that one. I heard about it recently, and now I've got to watch.
Well, I play all those at Halloween, so I check out the schedule. I'll send you the schedule. I'll let you know when it's on. Cool. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing, and that's what I love about all these guys. All the newer guys: Vincent Grimley, Mr. Molto, Octavian, Slash, Bobby the Bat is another guy. Well, it's a puppet, but he's a good horror host too. And he does a Saturday morning thing. That's what I'm saying. I like your Saturday morning thing too. It's like I might tap you to put that on the channel one of these days if you're up for that.
I would love to do it. Whether the only problem is that the cartoons that I air on there, I don't know what will happen at that point because I risk it. I don't. It's one of the ones where if they shut me down, they take it down. But most of the cartoons, they've kind of.
If you don't think I haven't dealt with that in 13 years, yeah. So believe me, we'll figure it out.
Okay, cool.
But it's just great to see all these guys working together, and to me, the more the merrier. The more I can. My problem right now with the channel is I got so many people that are horror hosts now, and it's really difficult for me to. I always like to keep the horror hosts prime time, or what I have them on when the channel, kind of the schedule resets at noon. So I have a couple of horror hosts on at noon. But prime time is for the hosts, and I'm telling you, my biggest problem right now is finding spots for everybody because there's so many good people out there, and so many just ones that are just starting out too. I mean, Princeton Vice, I like his show. He's new. Dario Evil is another guy you got to look up. He's on YouTube. I haven't had him. I've had him on the channel a couple times, and I'll tell you what, he's got a great. I mean, my thing with hosting, I always tell him, be unique. Different makeup. I mean, what do you think my face is yellow and I wear a red wig? Because nobody else does that, And speaking of comic books, I got that from the Creeper. So, but I'm saying, I always tell these guys, unique look and unique name. And I mean, horror hosting is horror hosting, whatever your style is, but the unique looks and everything, and these guys, I mean, they have that again. I'm rattling off all these names, and you look at them, and they're all unique guys. Where back in the day, it was just most people were white faced with black around their eyes, and which was cool too.
Yeah, because it fit the era, and there is a huge market out there for horror hosts because like I said, with YouTube and with the internet. And I don't want to say, I think sometimes, because people, this is not meant to be in any way, shape, or form pointed to anybody directly or anything. But yeah, I know that there are people who like, well, the internet is different than the TV channel. if you're on legitimate TV, even if you're on public access, if you're a little bit more legitimate than internet, because everybody can do internet. I'm like, but everybody can do public access if you can get to the TV station that will let you put it on. Because I've done it. I've been a public access guy. And I loved it. I had a blast. That's why this exists, because this is the gradual outcome of what public access was, and that's what I've became where I'm at now. And I think, why would you not, okay, your TV station has X amount of range. The internet is worldwide. I have, I have fans from Norway and Britain, and, Scotland. I have fans in Mexico, Canada, and I'm sitting there because I don't even think about it sometimes. Like I do my morning thing. I'm like, good morning. It's 8 a.m. It's time for Saturday morning. And everybody's like, well, dude, this is like noon, or this is, mid afternoon for us. I'm like, okay, where are you at? Now I have to put noon Eastern Standard Time. And I put that at the end of my
thing. Yeah. I've had to do the same thing, but it's weird because, we've had, some of the our biggest views come from, other than the United States, Australia, England, Canada lately has been like really a big number with us. And you made the exact point that I've always been saying. Look, it's great to say you're on legitimate TV, but your viewership is so limited where, gosh, we have, when we have our primetime lineups, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night, it's nothing for us to have 114, 115 countries watching. Now, it might only be one person in that country, but it amazes me to look down that list and I'm seeing, China, Saudi Arabia, and then I look at the time that we're on and I look at the time that it is there and I'm like, dude, are these guys staying up until 5 o'clock in the morning to watch our channel? There's no other explanation to me that either they're just up and they're bored, I don't know, or, they're like, oh, wow, they'll say something like, wow, the Bone Jangler's on at 5 in the morning, I'm going to stay up and watch that or something. The only thing that gets me about it is I really don't hear from a lot of them. Occasionally, like I said, I'll get an email from another country. And Australia has been really big. That's how Raul Madblood found us. That's where he's from. But I would love to hear from some of these other people, like I said, China, there's a couple people in China watching. Like the other night, there was 2. And like I said, there's not enough, but dude, it's China.
Yeah.
And I'd like to know what they think. Like, unless you speak the language, you see this weirdo, on the TV. I'm like, what are you thinking? Like, what is impressing you about this? Or is it not impressing you? Or are you just watching it because it's so strange? I'd love to hear from people.
Well, I had somebody send me a message one day and they're like, can you put it in subtitles in Hindi? And I went, I don't know if I can put subtitles on my show. I was like,
wow.
Yeah. I was like, maybe, I guess.
Desperate.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know. Maybe you can check YouTube. Is that an option at the bottom somewhere that I haven't seen? So
I don't know. That makes me wonder too. If you can do closed captioning on YouTube, so it makes me wonder if they could do that on YouTube. It makes me wonder if they can do it on my channel. If they'd write me, tell me. That's like I said. It's like all these countries watching, and I'm like, I've heard from very few of them. I would love to hear more from them, but I know. I guess the stuff, it's this day and age for people to send emails and stuff. Everything's text messaging, and I'm sorry, I'm an old fart when it comes to all this technology and stuff.
Well, I've noticed that when people message me in my comments, it's usually just telling me, hey, love the show, whatever, I'll get the little, hey, can you find this cartoon or this? And I'm like, oh, see what I can do. But when I do live, when I go live on Friday night or when I go live on Saturday morning, sometimes I can't be there the entire time. But I'm there most of the time, kind of hanging in the periphery sometime. But I'll have people like, hey, shout out where you at. And you just see the list of where people are at. And it's like, hey, I'm in London. Hey, I'm in Germany. Hey, I'm in Norway. Hey, and it's like, man, this is just amazing. And I messaged that one time. I was like, dude, the fact that you guys are watching me in a completely different, and I guess sometimes it's like people are on military bases, or or they're former Americans are now transplanted, somewhere else. And it's funny because I have a guy in England, I believe, and I always posted, I'm like, oh, I know I do Saturday morning serials, and yes, some of the cartoons I show are actually the ones that were on weekdays. And he's like, no, not here. They weren't. They were Saturday morning cartoons here in Britain. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, then there you go. It's a Saturday morning cartoon for you then.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think one time there was like it was a Saturday night, and I the analytics are different now. I used to use Google Analytics, and we had to stop using it because one time they updated and knocked the channel off, and it was off for like 24 hours because of that, and it took us a long time to. And I was sad to see it go, because I'll tell you what, their analytics were great. I mean, I could see real-time analytics. I could see but I remember one Saturday night, I mean, there was like 10 people watching from, where was it? Turkey or somewhere, or Iraq? I can't remember. And I found out it was a military base, and they were watching it from there. So yeah, I think that has a lot to do with where they're watching from. But still, that's so damn cool.
Yeah.
Real, just to think that you're reaching out and reaching that far to people. And I'll tell you what, the shout outs, they're important. They're important to people. I mean, people love that. I mean, think about it when we were kids. If you had any kind of show where you could send in a picture and they would show your picture, like Zombo, who we have on Fridays at midnight now. Well, Friday, Saturday morning, midnight. He does his thing on, pictures on the wall too. And I mean, that harkens back to when we were kids. I mean, sending a picture into a show, and if they say your name on TV, you're like, oh crap,
Yeah.
So that's important.
Yeah, it's neat because I'll get a message and like, hey, man, I love your show. Can you do a shout out to my husband? I'm like, sure, what's his name? And I'm like, yeah, I got no problem. I'm like,
that's great, man. Yeah. That's great. I love that.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I've talked to some other horror hosts. They're like, people will reach out and be like, really like, like I'll send you a heartfelt letter. And I got one a while back, and I was like, I kind of felt like I don't know what to do. Well, because I'm like, I'm just some silly guy doing a cartoon show out of his basement, And I wrote him back, and he goes, man, thank you for writing back to me. You don't know how much this means to me. And I'm like, dude, the fact that you're watching me means the world to me.
Yes.
And that fact that I'm affecting you to be able to watch your cartoons that you grow up on with your kids and your grandkids. And I was like, that's awesome. And I love being able to do that. That's why I do it, because I have a passion for cartoons. It's Saturday mornings and comic books are like my big thing, and being able to bring that to people, and even horror movies. Like I do obscure horror movies at my shop just because people are like, I never heard of this. Whoa, gotta watch this.
Well, and that's it. Opening that up to a new generation. I mean, and I've said this a lot in interviews. Growing up, I think we had the appreciation of a lot of this older movies, older shows, because we watched the same things that our parents watched. Because when you had, like where I was in New York, they had a police officer, Officer Joe Bolton, and he used to show Three Stooges. He used to show Little Rascals. You had this other guy who was a naval captain, Captain Jack McCarthy, and he would show Laurel and Hardy. I mean, this was all the stuff that our parents watched, all mind you, in the theaters.
Yeah.
But we grew up watching the same things our parents watched. And then my children, when they were younger, watched all that too. And not that I made them watch it, but I'm just saying it was that appreciation of it, me opening that up to my children. I mean, you're talking 3 generations there. And that's what I love about this. That's why I do this with the Monster Channel. That's why I love to see what you're doing with the cartoons, because you're opening this up to, and look I've said it before. I mean, not every kid digs all the old stuff.
No.
You know, that's why they do these remakes upon remakes. That's just somebody in Hollywood explained it to me. The reason they remake movies is to make the younger people want to see them, because some younger kids might not want to see black and white. And hell, if you have a subtitled movie, forget that. They ain't going to deal with that. But that's why they do this. And my thing is, though, I mean, they're even remaking things, you know, that weren't that old, you know, like The Stepfather and When a Stranger Calls, which is cool. Like I said, I've said this before. I give credit to anybody who does anything, whether it's a movie, a TV show, a radio show, a YouTube channel, whatever. As long as you're creating, that's fine by me. But I don't know. We need originality. That's my thing. We need originality.
Oh yeah, it's me. The whole thing is that I'm here having fun. You know, and I've got, what was funny is I've got one hate message, and it was
just one.
Just one. Before I get too far back, how did you have the horror host that inspired you locally, or did you kind of just make?
That's actually your dog. What you say?
Hey, come here. You can interview me. You have a question?
You know, he's just wandering around. What?
He'll be like,
oh, he's great.
Like, yeah, I have a question. Who the heck are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Believe it or not, I didn't grow up with any horror hosts. I mean, I lived in New Jersey at the time, and there really wasn't anybody. I mean, we had Zachary, but I was too young to see him. I saw him talking about cartoons. I saw him hosting Hercules cartoons when I was small, and I remember him doing that. And then he did this. It was a local New Jersey channel where he did this American Bandstand type show called Disco Team. So I got to see him, but I never saw him hosting until later on when I saw tapes and things like that. So other than that, there was a show on Saturday nights called Creature Feature. It was on NEW Channel 5 in New York. And that was a non-hosted show for a long time. And then all of a sudden they had this guy, The Creep. Although it was a guy in a cheesy tuxedo, pair of sunglasses, and his name was Lou Steele. He was an executive in the at NEW, and he used to do a lot of the voiceover work. But he did it, but he only did it for a couple of years. I mean, I always joke about how horror hosting, except if you're in Ohio.
Vince,
go ahead.
Turn it down. That'll be loud, and I'll get. Turn it down. Turn it down. Turn it down. No, you either turn it down or you go upstairs and watch it TV. You gotta turn it all the way down. Turn it to 5.
Maybe 7?
Okay, that's probably good. Sorry.
7 is good.
YouTube be like, wow, you're watching Rough Ruffman, so you can't watch it.
But yeah, I've always joked that horror host years are like dog years. If you're a horror host and you're on for 4 years, that's like the equivalent of 20 years. Now, but that was with a lot of, not unless you're in Ohio. I mean, those guys in Ohio, they love their horror hosts to go on forever. Yep. I mean, you're talking about Big Chuck and Little John. You're doing it for how many years? I mean, you know, yeah, same thing with you know, Son of Ghoul and guys like that. They love that. But I'm telling you, when it came to horror hosts in my area, gosh, they were only on for a couple of years. I mean, it's hard to believe. Zachary, when he was in Philly as Roland, only did it for like a year and a half or 2 years. He came to New York again, only did it for 2 years on ABC, then went to another local station. And yeah, I mean, I say that to Stella from Philadelphia. I think she was on, gosh, 6 years. I said, wow, that's like 30 years and dog year. I mean, horror host years. You know, you consider yourself lucky. Yeah. But no, I didn't really have anybody. And I've said this before. I think the thing that inspired me to be a horror host, I mean, I watched Stella. I love her show. Was that Zombo episode of The Munsters when Louis Nye played that. That was my first exposure to what a horror host was. And I was like, wow, that's cool. I want to do that. You know?
Yeah. That's like finding out recently. Cause like I said, I'm in Ohio, the land of horror hosts, even to this day. I was talking to somebody, they're like, man, there's nobody in Florida. I went, what? There's got to be people in Florida. And I started looking it up. I think there's like one, maybe two. I'm like, wow, maybe Ohio it is. But then I look at because Ohio also has one of the highest per capita haunted houses that you can go to at Halloween
Yeah,
time.
oh yeah.
So
Oh,
I'm
you guys love that
wondering
stuff.
if there is some sort of correlation between the two.
Oh yeah. Well, look at, I don't know if you know, Mr. Maniacal, Mike Maxim. He's big in the haunt industry. Look him up. He's just like one of my best friends, and he's helped me put this channel. Every channel I've done in the past few years, it's been with his help, and he's been invaluable to me as far as that goes. But he's in the haunt industry. Matter of fact, we're working out this deal. He's working with guitarist Neil Zaza,
Mhm.
and they're going to do and they've done live shows in Ohio. I think last year was a Nosferatu based one. It was called One Dark Night. Well, he's going to do it again this year, and we're going to try and like kind of simulcast it on the Monster Channel. But yeah, I mean that's how he became a horror host. He's got a horror host persona, Mr. Maniacal, and that's because he was so big in the hunt, and he's great at makeup. He's absolutely fabulous at makeup, and he put a horror host show together.
Cool.
And as far as Florida, I mean, you're talking about past horror hosts or current?
Past tour hosts. People that
Oh yeah, well you had Shock Armstrong was one. He was again. I'm not sure how long he lasted. Dr. Speculo, I think, was from Florida, and you had somebody called Gravemaster that was in Florida. And I believe some of their stuff is on YouTube. So if you get a chance, look them up. But there's some current guys there. Professor Gilman is the guy.
Oh yeah, Gilman. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. No, I've known him for a long time. Another great guy.
All right. Now I've asked all the horror hosts this, so we're gonna get to hard hitting questions now. All right. Money's no object. What movie are you putting on your show?
Holy crap. Yeah, that's tough. That was as tough as me picking out my top 20 favorite DVDs. Wow. I have to say Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. I love that movie. Always wanted to host it. Either that or The Invisible Man. It's got to be Universal. I would love to get a Universal film to do, because I mean that's one thing. When I do, when we air that, you don't mess with Universal. You don't mess with Toho,
Nope.
Hammer, any of that. I mean, there's supposedly some PD Universal out there, but yeah, it would be one of those. Either Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman or The Invisible Man. One of those.
Okay. All right. Next question. You can have anybody. Time and money is not an object. So this could be past, present, so somebody that passed away, whatever. Who are you bringing on your show?
Wow. I would have to say Boris Karloff. I would love. I mean that man, absolutely amazing, and again, class act. It was always did things for the kids too. Like the Grinch and amongst other things. I mean, he did a lot of stuff for children. But he, yeah, it would be absolutely amazing to be in his presence. I mean, he's one of those actors that never begrudged what he did.
No,
because it made him a living. Yep. I mean, Vincent Price was like that. I got to meet Vincent Price very briefly on a speaking tour, and it was funny. I said this before. Somebody in the audience asked him, "Well, why do you do horror movies?" He goes, "Well, I would love to do Shakespeare." He goes, "But I also love to eat." So, but Karloff never begrudged what he did, and there was so many of them that did. So many of them didn't like being pigeonholed. Yet, hey, it made them living. So
yeah,
that's one thing about him. He was amazing. Hands down.
That's like the one that I was really kind of disappointed to find out relatively recently was the girl that was in the movie Popcorn. She was in Stepfather. She was in
oh
man, I can't
oh gosh, I'm blanking.
Yeah, you're drawing that she did not like horror. I'm like, but you became like a horror. You were in a ton of good horror movies in a relatively short amount of time, and she didn't want nothing to do with it. I'm like,
Was that Jennifer? What's her name? Jennifer? Was that Jennifer Connelly? Is that her
no, no.
name?
Jennifer Connelly was
No, not Jennifer Connelly. Gosh,
oh,
everybody's gonna chastise me for this and not remembering her name. Yeah, and she did The Curse too. She was in that one. The
yeah,
Bite.
yeah.
Oh my God, why can't I remember her name? Not Jennifer Connelly. That's the one from Labyrinth, isn't it? That's the one.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Family.
It's all right. I got Halloween Jacqueline over here is looking it up.
Jill. Yeah, it's Jill.
Oh, Jill Schoelen.
Schoelen. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I didn't see. I never heard that of her.
Yeah, I didn't find out until I was watching the Stepfather on Joe Bob, and they were talking because I guess Darcy's a fan of, and I'm like, and she's like,
yeah. No, I remember I saw that where she was talking about her, but I didn't. God, I must have missed that part.
Yeah, she was not a fan of being. She didn't really like being in horror, and I'm like, I hate to say this.
She made two iconic films. I mean, Popcorn. I love Popcorn. That's a great movie. Mm-hmm. And Stepfather. Wow. Gee.
Sometimes these people I like the fact that like Kevin Bacon. That's where he got his start, and he's still like, I'll do a horror movie. I don't care. Yeah. So.
Well, and I tell you what. I mean, look at Ethan Hawke. I mean, I was never really a big fan of his, but then he made some of my favorite current film. I mean, Sinister. I love that film. I like The Purge. He was in that, and I don't know. In your movie, you say you go to the movies. Have you seen The Black Phone? Or
no, I haven't seen it yet. I wanted to, but I can't remember what happened. Something came up that weekend, and we didn't end up going. But yeah, I want to see that because I'm
psyched to see that. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to watch it this afternoon because it has come out. I think VOD, it's on the web. Yeah. And Jason Blumhouse is involved in it now, and you got the guy that directed Scott Derrickson. We directed Doctor Strange directed this, and the producers of Sinister. I hope I'm not building this up to where I'm going to be disappointed because some of the best movies that I've seen, I didn't have any expectations of, like Trick or Treat, the newer anthology, and Sinister. I mean, and they turned out to be some of my favorites now. But I'm looking forward to seeing The Black Phone, and it's Stephen King's son wrote it.
Yeah, Joe Hill. Yeah, it's a Joe Hill movie. Yeah. It's one of the ones. There's a lot of really good. What are you doing, bud? Turn it down too.
I think the dog is trying to steal his blanket.
Yeah, dogs are there fighting because that's all they do is they just argue. But the dog did not bite you.
That's cool, man.
She comes up and goes, and like he's like, oh, bit me. So, all right, yep, exactly. Okay, so I always ask this, but you've kind of acknowledged the any advice to any upcoming horror hosts and all that stuff. So,
listen to him. He's telling you right now. You heard what he said? He said, "Don't do it.
Don't do it."
No, I mean, I used to say that as a joke to people. I mean, if you're doing, like I said, if you're doing it for the right reasons, if this is your passion, if horror is your passion, and you really want to do this from your heart, that's fine. If you're looking to make money, well, okay, that's fine too. If you can do it. I mean, like I said, a lot of the hosts have Patreons now, and that's great because it keeps them going. And anything that allows them to do this, that's fine. But I mean, if that's your sole purpose of doing it, though, you're gonna fail. I mean, in 20 years, I've seen so many come and go because some of them think they're going to use it as a stepping stone to something else. Or no, I mean, a lot of the horror hosts like Ghoulardi, Ernie Anderson. I mean, they asked him to do it, and he wasn't a fan of horror movies. He didn't know much about it. And his thing was like, oh, okay, well, this is going to be a couple more bucks in my paycheck this week, so I'll do that. And even admittedly, Zachary said he didn't see any of these movies until he started hosting. So we're a different generation. Like once the millennium hit, I would say we're like the first horror hosts that well, not just me. I mean, we're kind of the first horror hosts that really did this because of the passion, because of the movies, and because we loved Ghoulardi and Svengoolie and all those guys. So we had a definite advantage that we were students of this. Those guys back then, I mean, look at, sometimes they would pick the weatherman. They go to the weatherman, hey, you want to dress up like a goofy character, and how much you going to pay me? Okay, I'll do it. So I'm not saying they weren't fans. I mean, they might have been, but if you hear some of them talk, it was just the thing.
Yep, it was just another job for them. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's not a job because well, it is a job, but it's not a job that you're doing because you're gonna become famous, you're gonna become rich. You're there to enjoy it, have fun along with everybody else, and
it's not a paying job. If you can make it a paying job, that's cool. But I mean, from what I understand, even some of the horrors that got paid, they're not. They're getting paid for working for their station, not just being a horror host. I mean, there was a host that I know that were multitasking, doing other things, doing writing and things like that. But
yep,
you got to, like I said, you got to have it here. Yep. You got to be crazy, number one. But yeah, that's. I mean, that was my advice to people. If you're not getting into this for that reason, then don't, because you're going to drive yourself crazy. Because you were talking about getting mail and stuff like that. Let me tell the story real quick. My show debuted on a Friday night, and I had put 3 or 4 email addresses out there. Write me here, or you can write me here, or you can write me care of the station. You can write, and I was like, oh, I can't wait. Saturday morning, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to have all these emails. None, absolutely none. And this went on for a long time. And I was like, well, damn, is anybody watching this thing? Well, I got this one email from this guy who said his wife had cerebral palsy and she was housebound. And they just happened to be clicking through and found my show one night. And she absolutely fell in love with it and said that he told me flat out, she lives for your show to come on every Friday. And just like you said, with getting mail about the cartoon, I could care less if I got 1 million fan letters. That was the one that spoke to me the most. Like, wow, really? I've impacted somebody like that? So, yeah. Wow. I don't want to get teary-eyed here.
It's one of them things where you're like, when you kind of touch somebody that you did not expect. Like, I never expected in a million years that me showing Saturday morning cartoons was going to be something that somebody would care about. And I have these people reach out and like really heartfelt. And it's like, oh, and it kind of like, I'm sitting there and I had to reread the letter a couple times. And my buddy's like sitting there looking at me, goes, are you all right? I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. He goes, is it bad? I'm like, no, it's good, but I'm not sure how I feel about it. And he came over and he read it and he's like, man, he goes, that's deep. I was like, I know. I was like,
yeah,
I don't know if I deserve something that deep.
Well, yeah, I believe me. That's it. It's amazing to impact people like that. I mean, it was like that in wrestling. When I was in wrestling, I didn't want to be the good guy. I wanted to be the heel, because if you can get an arena full of people to boo you and hiss at you, and I mean, I'm telling you, I'll never forget, there was one show I was at and I was managing somebody, and I got the crowd so riled up. Like, at one point, the face wrestler threw me out of the ring and I landed on the floor, and there was this bunch of little kids in the front row started kicking me in the back. Just, I mean, and one guy said to me, well, man, didn't that piss you off? I was like, hell no. I said, that was great. The fact that you can get that kind of reaction out of people. I mean, it's great being a face and everybody cheering you and everything, but I mean, no, it's fun being a heel. It's fun getting people to do that.
What was your wrestling gimmick?
My name was Christian Greed. That was, and I mean, I did mostly refereeing in the beginning. I mean, I ref for some of the bigger promotions,
Mhm.
but for the independent ones, I was a manager. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I was trained with the wrestlers. I mean, I
Mhm.
was trained. I mean, at that time, I was like maybe, 150, 160 pounds. And man, they loved me. They loved throwing me around because, and that's why they wanted you to train as a wrestler, even though you're just a manager, because then you can interact with it. And oh my God, I was like their tackling dummy. I mean,
Yep.
when we used to go in and train all the time, they loved it because they could suplex me and throw me here and do this. And I'll tell you what, it was rough. It was it was tough. I mean, they put you through. I mean, they put me through submission stuff. That's that old school.
Oh yeah.
So I've learned a lot of that submission wrestling stuff. Where I don't care if a 500-pound guy comes up to me, I can make him cry. Just nerve hold, whatever. But I mean, the reason I got where I got was because I stuck it out. I mean, there was guys 350, 400 pounders who, somebody put a move on them or they chopped them and they were like, oh, that hurt. And they didn't show up again. But I came week after week after week, 3 times a week. And that's where I got, and it was fun. It was fun.
So-
Knock wood, I never got hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, how much did Halloween Jack spawn out of wrestling, or was he a completely different? Really don't.
Yeah, he did. No, I mean, no, he was a completely different character, but kind of the same person.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like I said. I mean, I liked getting people riled up, and I always said, "Well, thank you." Sorry, I always said that if I can get people in an arena all riled up, imagine what I can do on TV and piss people, like a larger group of people, off. And I mean, that's kind of what my thing was in the beginning.
Yeah.
It was kind of being like,
Yep.
but yeah, what we're saying about the oh yeah, the wrestling. I mean, and it's funny because I started out like to be a wise ass character,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, somewhere along the way, I got family friendly, and it really kind of was weird. And I think it's when I met my wife and she joined me. Well, first off, nobody ever knew who I was because you've seen me, my costume, the red hair, the glasses, all that. Whenever I was out of costume, nobody ever recognized me. And I'm telling you, I got that from the original Svengoolie, because people asked him why he wore sunglasses and the beard and the whole, the white face. And he said that they asked him, was it so you can read cue cards? Is that why you had the sign? He goes, no. He goes, I just didn't want anybody to recognize me. I didn't want to embarrass my family. So I kind of took that cue, and nobody ever knew who I was out of costume. As a matter of fact, anybody who did meet me, I mean, there was this one woman one time, she wrote for Count Forsyth, and I knew her, but this was the first time I was meeting her face to face, and she kept looking at me like a dog, like cocking her head, and I'm like, what's the matter? She goes, I'm not used to you with that red hair. It's weird. So, but then my wife being a redhead, when they started seeing me with her, she was recognizable, so everybody knew who I was at that point. But my point being, as we would go to Horror Hound year after year, kids would start coming up and asking for pictures with me and stuff like that, and which I was happy about. But then I kind of turned to my wife and said, when did I become, family friendly? I mean, 5 years ago, I rather scared the crap out of them and had them run away from me. Now all of a sudden they're coming up, but no, it's a cool feeling. It's great.
It is. It's I got my first like, hey, can we get a picture taken with you? I'm like, sure, I'll take a picture.
Oh wow.
Yep, few weeks back. I was like, man, that's weird.
And I'll tell you what, that never gets old. Never gets old. Because the first time that I was really out at a convention was in 2003 at the Cinema Wasteland. Matter of fact, that's when A. Ghastly Ghoul got married there.
Yep.
All of us were there, and people were asking me, I really didn't think anybody outside of New Jersey knew me because I didn't think anybody inside of New Jersey knew me.
Yeah.
But people in Ohio were, hey, Halloween Jack, hey, can I? And I was like, huh? Okay, yeah, sure, I'll take it. And like I said, even to this day, going to a convention, if somebody asked me, like I said, that doesn't get old. That's a great feeling.
The one that shocked me was I was at Horror Hound this year, just shopping, buying stuff, and my wife was getting autographs. I went there for 2 autographs and to pick up some stuff, and that was my whole day. And we're sitting there. My wife's like, "Oh, I could use something to eat real quick, and let me grab something to drink." So we go in a little area where they have the commissary cafeteria little area, and I'm just sitting there, kind of chilling, talking to her while she's eating. And these people go, "Can we sit here?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And the whole entire time, this lady's like looking at me, and I'm like, "Can I help you?" And she goes, "Do you have a YouTube channel?" Like, "Yeah." She goes, "What do you do?" And I was like, "Well, I do Saturday morning serials and I do group therapy." "That's where I've seen you before." And I'm like, "Thank you. I appreciate it."
Oh, wow, man.
I'm like,
no, that's cool.
And then about maybe 2 hours later, we're walking down the hallway. I've legitimately got a Shogun Warrior in my bag, and I'm walking along, and this guy goes up and he slaps me on the shoulder. He goes, "Love the show, Paul," and he walks off. I don't know who he was.
Wow.
I was like, thank you. And I'm like waving to whoever was just there, and I'm like, I didn't expect that at all.
Wow. Yeah, see, that's cool.
Yeah, literally not.
See, I have people coming up to me with the American Scary DVD for me to sign all the time. So that I got some. I think one of the weirdest ones was this woman. I was at Chiller Theater Convention in Jersey. I used to go to that a lot. And I was walking around. Matter of fact, I was with this other horror host, Ormsby, another cool guy. And I walked away from him, and I saw this woman talking to him in the distance. So he comes up to me, and she was pointing at me, and he comes up to me, and I'm like, "Well, what was that all about?" He said, she's convinced that you're Kid Rock in a Halloween costume. And that woman followed me all around that convention. And I finally confronted her, and I'm like, "Look, I'm not Kid Rock." And she's like, "Yes, you are." And I was like, "Okay, fine." She took a picture with me, and I'm sure she went back and told everybody, "Look, I got a picture with Kid Rock." Okay, but you know.
I used to get that. "Hey, aren't you that guy in that band?"
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
wow.
I there's a picture of me because with the beard and at one time I actually had long hair, and everybody used to think I was one of the guys from the band Mudvayne. So I have a picture of me with the guy from Mudvayne. So we're both there. We're both their hair. The both beards. Like, see, not the same guy.
Damn. See, I wish I could find Kid Rock and take a pic with him, and and say, "Hey, look." Yeah. I mean, I was flattered, but I mean, it just, believe me, I love people, but it just, it's kind of weird when you say, "Well, look, I'm not," they just won't believe you. And
no, some people think that you're just messing with them. So.
Okay. So like I said, if I took a picture with her and she went and told all her friends I was Kid Rock, if I made her happy, good.
Good on her. Good on her.
More power to her.
Oh man. I don't want to waste too much of your time. We've been here about an hour and a half. And Vince.
Has it been really?
Seriously, yeah, it's hour 23 thereabout.
Like we just started.
Yeah.
Gee. No, you're not wasting my time. I have nothing to do. I'm having a Zoom meeting at 6:30.
Oh, okay. I've got plenty of time.
About the channel, so about the future of the channel. So cool. Whatever, man. You can hear me. I'll talk.
Sweet.
I'll talk your ears off, dude. So just
It's funny because I've got so many interviews that I have to go back and do a part 2 of, because they were like, "Oh, well, how long have we been on this episode?" I'm like, 2 hours. Yeah. They're like, "Oh, we got a lot more to talk about." I was like, "Okay, we're having part 2 down the road."
Well, that's what Raul Madblood keeps telling me. He's like, "Man, we're going to do a part 2 and 3 and 4." And, this is what I said to him. It's unfortunate that I told you I watched a lot of what my parents watched. And I think it's unfortunate sometimes. And I'm not saying this happens with everybody, but I think back to when my parents passed away, and I never really talked to them about a lot of this. I never really asked them, "Well, how was your experiences going to the movies? And did you go to see Dracula when it came out because you were 10 years older?" And, my father was in World War II, and I'm sure he had stories, and I never really asked him about a lot of this. And like I said, I was talking to Raul about this, and I said, this is why now that I'm, I never really used to do a lot of interviews. And I said, this is why I want to do this now, because now that I'm in my 60s, I just feel I have a lot to tell everybody. And maybe there'll be that 14-year-old kid out there who might watch this or something and get interested in it. Excuse me. That's why I'm sharing these stories with people now, because I want people to know what it was like for me growing up. Because I'm telling you, I had a blast as a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, growing up in the 60s and 70s, I mean, a lot of this was new. Horror hosting's always had its ups and downs. And I can tell you the exact years of those ups and downs. I mean, 57, 58. Well, of course, it started with Vampira back in 54, 55. But again, that didn't last long either. But then, 58 when the shock package came out, then all of a sudden it died off again, but then it came back in 62. If you look up horror hosts in 1962, I can't believe how many there were. That all of a sudden that year, what it was about that year, 62, 63, there's a ton of them. Then as the mid 60s went back, dropped down again. Then the 70s came, early 70s, again, picked up. It's like there's these hills and valleys all the time to horror hosting. And right now, I think we're at a peak. I think there's a lot of interest in it right now. And I credit that to, I mean, there was a lot of interest in the 80s because of Elvira. But right now, I credit a lot of that to Joe Bob and Svengoolie, that people are interested in this. So good for us.
Yeah. I mean, legitimately, with Svengoolie being on MeTV,
yeah,
that's over the air. That you can get. You don't have to have cable. You don't have to have nothing. You can legitimately put an antenna on your house and get that channel. My mom lives out in the country. This is a house. I didn't grow up in his house, but I spent a lot of time in his house. It's right between two towns. You get no cable. Your phone's not that good. You can't get cell phone reception, stuff like that. She calls me up. She goes, I just watched Frankenstein on Svengoolie. And I was like, I know, right? That was on there. She goes, oh, she goes, I remember watching that. And she was telling me about when she grew up watching, the horror host that she had. And I can't remember but she remembers watching Shock Theater when she was a kid. And she's born in 54, so probably 62 to 64, probably when she was 8 to 10 years old, with her friends.
Well, maybe it was Ghilardi, because Ghilardi had Shock Theater. I mean, was this in Ohio or was this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, he was Shock Theater before he started using the Ghilardi name, so it could be.
Yeah, cool.
Hey, let me tell you something. I have an older sister, and she was the one that really kind of helped me too with, starting with the horror, my love of horror, because she took me to see a lot of movies. But she's a big Svengoolie fan. I mean, a big Svengoolie fan. She's never talked about horror hosts in the past, and I always kid around saying, for God's sake, here you have a brother who's been a horror host for 23 years and you're a Svengoolie fan. Yeah. I don't even think she's ever seen one of my episodes. Now that I think about it.
Well, it's like I give my friends crap. They're like, I was like, have you guys ever watched one of my shows? And they're like, well, a couple, maybe, I don't know. Like,
well, I have to say, to me, when we did the Roku channel, I mean, I kind of made a mistake with the Roku channel. I should have started as an on-demand, because it was streaming. They wouldn't certify it. If it was on demand, I could have gotten it certified and then probably added streaming. So that was my fault. I made a big mistake doing that. And that's why we're not certified, and it's hard, to find it. And now they've gotten rid of a lot of the private channels. Now, thankfully, we're still there. I mean, we still have the channel. People still watch it and everything. But I wish I had done it differently.
yeah.
And my thing was, I didn't want to do on demand. I want the channel, like I said, to be a channel like we watched as a kid. You had to sit there and watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Like we looked in the front in the TV guide and you saw Frankenstein was coming on. Like, oh my God. And you had to be there to watch it.
Yeah.
There was no, and they didn't show those movies that often on TV. I mean, Universal they did, but and that's my only problem now. I just feel there's so much out there, so much on demand, so much on YouTube. I mean, really, who's got the time to watch all this? I mean, being I do the channel, sometimes I can take a look at a host gives me a show and I can scan through it, like look at their bits and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I've ever sat down and watched a whole horror hosted show in years. I just don't have the time. I mean, like I said, I looked at your channel. I saw what you did. I had time to watch a couple episodes, but I mean, for the most part, seriously, who's got the time? There's so much out there and so much good stuff. It's a shame.
Oh yeah.
And, I'd love to sit there and watch it all.
Yeah.
So many good horror hosts.
There you go. Well, that's one of the things I do like about being able to have my shop, because, I'll sit there and I'll just be like, all right, I watch my shows and stuff like that. And he'll watch stuff. Sometimes he'll come over on my side of the shop, but he's got his TV and his video game system over on the other side. Don't you, bud? Yep. And so some days I'll just be like, you know what? I'm watching Horror Host. I'll just find the Horror Host on, and I'll put it on the TV, and I'll run it. And then sometimes it'll go to their next episode, or sometimes the algorithm will go to another Horror Host, and I'll just keep trucking right along. Like one day I started out with Monster Madhouse. So I started out with Carlos. And I think then the next one was a Sally episode. And then it went and did it did like two of another, and then another one was starting when I left, and it was the entire day there was 4 different hosts.
It's a football.
And that was just letting it run.
Look behind you, Dad.
But then I've let it run where it was just like
look behind you.
well, okay.
The ball.
Yep.
Look at it.
Okay, I see it.
Hey, shh, don't you start. Sorry. My cat just attacked my dog. Hey, leave the dog alone.
He's gonna go let Abby in. And then like a week later, I went to do the same thing, and then it just run the same host for like 3 episodes. I'm like, I want to change it and put a different host on. But it all just depends on the algorithm that day, I guess. It's like, oh, this is what you're watching today.
Oh yeah. Well, I tell you what, I don't know if you watch Tubi. I like Tubi. They got a lot of great horror movies on there. And the thing I like about Tubi, when the movie's over, a similar movie will start right after. And I mean, one time, I love those anthologies like Asylum, The House of Drip Blood, all those things. And one day I turned it on and there was like one after another. They just came on one after another. I was like, wow, that's great. I don't know. I've had stuff on YouTube and sometimes something will pop up that has nothing to do with what I was watching before.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know how it works.
I don't either.
And I mean, sometimes it will, like you said, you watch Horror Host after Horror. I don't know. I've had it do that to me where all of a sudden I'm like, why did this, how did this pop up? But yeah, it's like these interviews. I mean, I'm at this computer all day doing this channel. I mean, it takes a lot to do this, but like with the interviews, at least I'll put on my headphones and I can listen to you guys. I don't necessarily have to see it, but that's how I heard your interviews. That's how I heard Raul's.
Hey, get off.
Yeah, that was funny because what? Oh, the dog's fine. Abby, go lay down. Go lay down. Go over sit on the couch or go upstairs. She can't get you if you're in your room. But yeah, Raul, me and him been talking about doing something, and then he finally got me on his show, and that was weird because he's like, man, I'm nervous interviewing you, and I'm like, why? I'm like, I'm nobody. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm nervous. So
he said that to me, and I'm like, why? Don't be nervous. So I got to ask you, how weird was it for you to be interviewed?
It was a little weird. It was it was fun. It was because he's like, oh, asking me these questions. I'm like, dude, well, I don't want you to. I'm like, dude, I'm honest about everything. I don't hide anything because that's like I tell people this that they're like, oh, why do you work so much? I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, I was an alcoholic, so my whole thing was I'm sober. I've been sober for like almost 8 years, and so I keep myself busy.
No, good for you, man.
Because it keeps my mind off of it, keeps me out of trouble. And so I'm honest. And I tell people, also people ask me, what it takes to, I was like, you just got to decide you want to be sober. And one day it may take a couple times, then one day it'll snap and you'll stick, and hopefully it'll stay. So what are you doing now?
Well, I had a serious drug addiction when I was a teen, and I got out of that. And I know what you mean. I mean, it's like I told you. I mean, the thing that really got me out of that was music. That's what I focused on. Not making music, but I mean, once I got out of that, that's when the whole punk scene started. So I used to hang at CBGB's all the time, and watch all these bands, and I got really into the music. But that's my point about people in horror being so focused.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I've said this before. It's the people that are not focused are the ones you got to watch. People who have, too much time on their hands and no purpose, that's the ones. But that's what impresses me about everybody. And again, just about everybody I've ever met in horror, whether it's a celebrity, whether it's another horror host, whether it's an interviewer, everybody's been great. Well, almost everybody. There's been, like you were saying, what you said, you got one hate letter. Yeah.
Yeah. I got one hate message.
I can't tell you.
And then
I don't know. And it's, I don't know. The hate mail for what it is. It's like, why are you bothering?
This is how I look at it. Is that's how I knew I made it, because if somebody had to take time out of their day to tell me that, and it was funny because I can tell you what it said. It was I wish you didn't. I love your show, but I wish I didn't have to suffer through you. That we could just watch the show without you. And I'm like, there's the done. You're done. You can just fast forward. But I go, man, I was like, that's how you know it big, because the fact that you had to take, and it wasn't a short letter, so they had to, type. I was like, that they stopped what they were doing, wrote that, sent it. I affected them that much that they had to write that.
Well, one part of the movie Private Parts, which the Howard Stern story that I took away from that, was the part where they were showing the ratings and how good his ratings were. And they were like, well, who's watching? I mean, who's listening to him? They said the people that hate him are the biggest demographic. And they're like, well, if they hate him, why are they listening to him? Because they want to see what he's going to say next. And I'm telling you, I took a lot away from that. And you're right. Look, we get people in chat all the time. Oh, I don't like this horror host, or I don't like this. And my attitude was, look, that's your opinion, but then what are you doing here?
Yep.
Why are you sitting here watching this? Go watch something else. Go watch another horror host on YouTube,
Yep.
Go watch Paul Lee. Go watch his interviews, There is part. I mean, you're right. It's weird that they're taking the time out to tell you this stuff, and they're watching you, Well,
we go back to wrestling. I have friends that were heels, and that's how they knew if they affected people that got angry and hated them. They knew they'd done their job well, and then they can make the face look better. And I always hated, I'm one of them guys who always liked the heel better than the face, because I thought the heel had more personality.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was always like that.
Yep.
I always rooted for them. Well, I'll tell you a story. I was refereeing an ECW show in Philadelphia, and Now, at the time that I was with them, they weren't Extreme.
They were
Yeah,
just
it was
Eastern
known as
champions.
Eastern Championship, right?
Mhm.
Because a lot of the guys that I worked with and trained with at my wrestling school worked with them, and they kind of got out of it when it got Extreme, and I did too. But anyway, there was one night where I was refereeing, and I made a bad call, and these two guys, one of them was the guy who later became Nunzio in ECW and WWE.
Mm-hmm.
He and this other wrestler, the Kodiak Bear, we were leaving to go back to his car, and it was a rental car, and there was all these little kids waiting for us outside, throwing rocks at us, and he was getting and the one guy was egging him on, the Kodiak Bear. He's come on, come on, and Nunzio was getting mad. He's like, no, that's a rental car. They're pelting my rental car, But the point being, gosh, they got that mad that they were waiting for us outside with rocks. So it's like, whoa, that's powerful. That's real powerful.
Well, you talk about ECW. I was at Hare Arena for, was it Heatwave 98, I believe. And you can look it up. It's the Hare Arena incident. It's the one with Bubba Ray Dudley where he almost incited riot. I was there. And
oh yeah,
the fact that and people can hate, Bully Ray, Bubba Ray as much as they want, but that's a guy who knew how to get people to hate him. And and that people were just mad. And that's like, I grew up with the Freebirds, and they when they turned on the Von Erich, oh my, those guys,
that's great history.
Oh man. And it's funny because when you really look at it, who were the real bad guys? Because the Von Erichs were not good people at that point.
Yeah.
And
imagine that the Freebirds had to have security and police.
Yep.
What does that say? I mean, that's I get floored when I hear stuff like that they made that big of an impact on people. Oh, those were good feuds, though, and that was amazing stuff. So good.
What else is funny is there's a guy out there now, and I always joke around because I had somebody who told me they would train me just so I could have this match.
Oh.
But there is the Nature Boy Paul Lee, and it's a dude who just completely does the Ric Flair knockoff. Supposedly he got the okay from Ric Flair, and I don't see it, but you can look him up. He's the Nature Boy Paul Lee. And I don't, because he's not good, and I'm always like, he's not a good wrestler. I guess he's been like had guns pulled on him in the ring because he's a dick. And
wow.
I almost been stabbed. But I just have the ongoing joke that if I have one wrestling match, I want it to be for him, against him, for the name to who can actually be the real Paul Lee. So,
there you go.
And
I'd pay to see that. I train you.
Yeah.
I could train you. Yeah.
And I told him, I was like, I do hair for name because I'll just shave my head because it's no big deal. And I'd be like back when Hulk Hogan and Macho Man were complaining about their hair. I had more hair than they got.
Yeah.
And,
wow.
But yeah,
that'd be cool. I got to look him up. I've never heard of him, but
yeah.
then I'm not. I haven't been up. I mean, I watch the current stuff, not an AEW fan by any means. I mean, but I do feel, not to be a conspiracy theorist, but I do feel there is collusion between AEW and WWE. I don't think it's everything you're hearing it to be. I believe there's just so many things that are going on. And I'll tell you one thing that is glaring to me. Chris Jericho being on Stone Cold show.
Mm-hmm.
And even Jericho said, wow, is somebody going to attack me when I come in here? Now, if you follow wrestling, Vince McMahon is not like that. If somebody leaves his company, until they come back and want to be a part of the company again, he's not letting anybody on anybody's show that is part of another federation. So this is telling me there's something, because now all of a sudden Tony Khan's talking about, oh, I wouldn't be opposed to a AEW WWE Super Show, which would be great. But I'm telling you, believe me, there's something going on. They're working together.
I think that WWE works with Impact because they've done the vignettes. They had Mickey James in the Royal Rumble as the Impact champion. Oh yeah, there's
and like I said, in the past there would be no way in hell he would do that.
No,
the only way he started working with ECW was when he bought it. Yeah, when he started giving money to Heyman.
Yep, because of who was it that the reason they started giving him money? Wasn't it Too Cold Scorpio? Because he had a deal. Yeah, he had like a deal to bring money into so that WWE covered that money. So,
and then he started using the wrestlers, and there's no way in hell that he would. I mean, I'm telling you, once you parted company with him, whether it was on good terms or not, he's not going to promote whatever wrestling federation you're in.
Nope.
So when he had Jericho, well, I have an inside story, and I don't know if I should say this, but I have a friend who's a ref for WWE, and it was after one of the pay-per-views. They were bringing the ring back to their warehouse, that big warehouse where they have all the memorabilia. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to say the name, but this was the day before AEW had their pay-per-view. They had a convention, like a memorabilia convention the day before, and then they had their first pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. And there was an ex-WWE wrestler that was working for AEW in the warehouse, looking at stuff to take to this show. And I said to my friend, there's no way in hell Vince McMahon would let that happen. And it was somebody that had recently left the company. So again, I don't want to get in trouble and have anybody beat down my door for giving information.
So that was Starcast 1, right?
Whatever their first paper, no, wasn't it all or nothing? Whatever that was,
because you had All In, and then they had their memorabilia / convention, which was Starcast.
Yeah, okay, that's probably what it was then.
I want to say I think that's like Conrad Thompson, but I'm not 100% if that's Conrad Thompson or not.
And I'm telling you, I mean, this wrestler was in the warehouse, and I'm like, there is no way Vince McMahon is going to let him take stuff for a show that's for a rival company. So I'm telling you, there's stuff going on.
They had that memorabilia show on A&E, and by the time the memorabilia show aired, almost all the people that were on the show were on AEW, but they still ran that show. I'm like, dude, if I was somebody and all my talent had gone and those were the talent that I was promoting on that show, I'd be like, yeah, don't air that episode. We'll do something else. I was like, I don't know. I'm not giving them any free publicity. No. So
no, I'm telling you, and I've argued with people about this. All my wrestling buddies, they're like, nah, they're not working. I'm telling you, don't be shocked when you hear it. I'm telling you. And now, like I said, Tony Khan making this big announcement of, oh, I wouldn't mind working with the WWE in a Super Show. And I was like, and believe me, there's other things I could say. I'm not gonna say it. Yeah.
I've got some conspiracies of my own right now, and I don't know if they're true or not, but I could see with everything that's going on with Vince McMahon right now, with the whole, to drive his prices down on his own stock so that he could buy back all of his stock and then just be done with it, so that the McMahons would be the owners of WWE anymore, and then they could do whatever they wanted again. And I can see them.
Look at, they've gotten this far. They've gotten this far being smart. So that could happen. That could happen.
I grew up in the very end of the territories. So when I was a kid, it was still NWA, Mid-South, Georgia, AWA, and WWF.
Mid-Atlantic. I love mid
Mid-Atlantic.
Atlantic wrestling. That was
Yep.
good stuff.
And I got hooked on. I was a Georgia championship guy myself because I was one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, still to this day, is Arn Anderson. And everybody's like, "Why
Yeah.
Arn Anderson?" I was like, "Because he looks like a dude. He just looked like a dude that could beat the crap out of you." And he wasn't jacked. He wasn't, he didn't do
Oh
flipping.
no.
Yeah, he just a barrel chested dude.
And you know something, he didn't need a gimmick.
No.
I mean, yeah, they called him the enforcer. They made
yeah.
him part of the Four Horsemen and all that, but I mean, no, he didn't need a gimmick. Him, Tully Blanchard. I mean, I love those days in wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I always frowned upon a lot of the gimmicks that were going on with WWE at the time. You know, Mantor and guy coming out wearing a big bull head, and I mean,
yeah.
you know, it was ridiculous. I mean, it served its purpose,
Mm-hmm.
but I give a lot of respect to people like Flair and them that they really didn't need their gimmick. The wrestling was their gimmick.
Yeah,
and they were great wrestlers. I know I loved Arn Anderson too. I loved the Four Horsemen. I thought the whole, Barry Windham too.
yeah.
Another.
I was always the Brain Busters, the Four Horsemen. Always Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson. Those guys were great. And it's like
Yeah.
I went back and was rewatching old stuff the other day, and I was like, oh my god, I forgot Doom. Ron Simmons.
Oh my gosh, I love Ron Simmons. He is such a cool dude. I'm telling you, he's. The one thing I always regret is that I was at a Horror Hound convention and he was there, and I wanted to go up with my camera and just do a promo and have him stand next to me and have the camera on me and say, "Hey, you're watching, Halloween Jack in the Haunted Theater," and then I have it pan over to him and have him go, "Damn!" And I couldn't pull the trigger. I was afraid to ask him but yet somebody else asked him to do stuff and he did it. So I should have just did that. But it was weird. The Brain Busters. I mean, they were good in WWE, but it was out of place. It just was out of place.
Yeah, they should have
been. Like I said, that gimmick filled. They just were not. They were good. Like I said, they were good there, and they had some great matches against. The Rockers?
Yeah,
but they were just so out of place.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, people complain that you need competition. I just feel that all these independent wrestling federations, I mean, you still have the NWA, out there too, are fine. I didn't like the fact that some ex-WWE guys decided, well, we're going to do this, do AEW and don't sit there and tell me you're not competing with them. That's a load of crap. That's exactly what you're doing. But I'm sorry, I can see it going the way of WCW. I understand competition is good, and I understand it's good to have other federations, but something, I like the territories, but I'm sorry, you're never going to beat McMahon. I don't care what you do. You are not going to beat that man or his family.
No, because they've been there for a reason for that long. And, because everybody's like, oh, but it was his dad who had the WWF first. Then it became the WWF and then WWE. But, everybody's like, well, he created pay-per-view. I was like, no, he didn't. There was pay-per-views before WrestleMania.
Oh, Starrcade came out a year before WrestleMania.
And, then, you had Supercard or Super Clash. And all those, and I'm like, people talk about the Forbidden Door and all this stuff like that. I was like, man, they were doing that years ago. I remember when Ric Flair wrestled Kerry Von Erich because Kerry Von Erich was the WCCW and Ric Flair was the NWA and what was the one you had the USWA versus the AWA, and that's
Oh yeah, and then you had one that popped up that actually what was it that UWF that had the Freebirds in it, and a lot of the stars that went to WWF came from UWF because you had Hacksaw Jim Duggan was in there. You had the Freebirds. See, that's what I always regretted. The Freebirds they had one or two matches in WWE, and then it was like they disappeared. And I was really looking forward to that at the time. because they were going to make them part of that whole rock and wrestling thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what happened. It just didn't work out. But that UWF, I think that was Bill Watts who did that. And that was a good show. Sting came out of there.
Mm-hmm.
The Ultimate Warrior, they were called
Blade
Runners at the time. That was a good, I tell you what, I like that show a lot. There was some really good talent on there.
It's not that UWF that came back later with, what was it, Herb?
No.
Herb, whatever his name.
Yeah.
That was all the washed up WWF guys at that point.
And did you see that? Wasn't it on Dark Side of the Ring? Yep. They talked about that guy. Yeah, that was, oof. That's a rough show.
Yeah, was it Vice said that you know, oh, we've got great numbers. It always does great. And they're like, well, are you bringing it back? No. And they're like, why are you not bringing it back? And I was like, probably because too many people are like complaining about it. And then you got the people who are like, yeah, I can't be on that show no more. Because I know that Jim Ross isn't doing any more episodes. I don't think there's some other people who aren't doing any more episodes. And it's because of the Plane Ride from Hell episode, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Because that made everybody look bad. And I'm like, who would have guessed that a bunch of guys slammed into a plane for X amount of hours getting hammered are going to do stupid stuff? So,
yeah.
So,
you know what? It's going to be like that with anything.
Oh, yeah. You realize what a plane float of football players is probably like back in the day?
Yeah. Or how about a plane load of horror hosts? I bet you there's a lot of stories there too. So, and believe me, I know some of the background stories of some guys that, I mean, you know what? Look at it. It's nobody's business. You know, that's the way I see it. I mean, I like Fangoria magazine, but when they came out with that article about Lon Chaney Jr. being alcoholic and all that, it turned me off to that magazine. It was it's a good magazine and everything, but it's like, I don't need to read that stuff about him. I don't care what these guys do, as long as they're not hurting anybody. If they want, you know, hey, you want to drink yourself into oblivion every night, that's your business, you know?
And it wasn't like it was, I hate to say it wasn't like it wasn't common knowledge. I mean, I knew that when I was a kid, I knew that Lon Chaney Jr. was an alcoholic. I mean, I've seen the footage, you know, and you see, especially them right there towards the end where, you know, you're like, okay, well, he's fine. And it's like, you kind of see the decline. Yeah. You're like, oh, yeah. Then they're like, oh, he's out. Yeah, wasn't blind. You know, wasn't. But.
Well, and I'm telling you, as somebody that was on the road for, you know, a period of time with the wrestling, I mean, I said this before, the reason I stopped was because, you know, my kids were small and, you know, here I was working a regular job during the week and doing a lot of stuff on the weekends with wrestling. I was never home. And I came home one Sunday night. My son ran away from me like he didn't know who I was, you know, crying to his mother. And I was like, no, that's the end of this with me. And this is what people need to understand about these guys. That's a rough life. It is a rough life. Yeah, there's a lot of adulation. Yeah, now they're making mega bucks and yeah, they can become movie stars or whatever. But the guys that are in the trenches in this, it's a rough life. And I mean, that's what it was with me. I mean, traveling and going and doing a show and then barely getting time to eat and then going to the next one. And it's rough. So I'm not condoning anything they did, you know, especially on that flight. But I mean, I can understand it, you know.
Yeah, because it's and what's bad is seeing some of these guys, you know, that, you know, you get the guys who got their stuff together, saved money, whatever, you know what, but then you see the ones that I'm not gonna put any names out there, but they're still out there doing the indie shows.
Yep.
Making,
because they have to.
Yep. And you're just like, man, you made
that's
money.
You know, really basically all they have, and that's their only way of making any kind of money.
They you know, we were joking about this yesterday. Me and my son were coming back from, because he works, my 22-year-old works for me, and we were driving back, and I was like, you know, there are people that, you know, Lars Ulrich, the drummer, the only band he's ever been in is Metallica. It's his only band he's ever been in. You know, that's like saying John Bonham, the only band he was ever in was Led Zeppelin. You know, you know, even like other bands like Kiss was in other bands before they were Kiss, you know, the other guys from Metallica were all in other bands, but there's this one guy who's been doing the exact same thing. And that's all he's ever done, you know? So there's guys who got out of college, you know, went directly into wrestling. That's the only thing they've ever done, done, you know?
Yep.
At least Duke the Dumpster Drosy was a garbage man at one point. Really, he was a garbage man at one point that became a kayfabe garbage man.
Well, thank God Isaac Yankem wasn't really a dentist.
Could you imagine Kane's big old hands trying to get in your mouth?
Oh my gosh. Jeez. Wow.
Who was your favorite wrestler growing up?
It's funny. I have to say the 80s version of Adrian Adonis was, you know, I liked him a lot when he was still doing the New York gimmick, you know, before he, you know, did the flower shop and all that stuff. I really liked him a lot. But as a kid, superstar Billy Graham, he was, I mean, there you go. Again, a heel, interesting, and draws your attention, you know. He was, I liked him a lot.
Oh, yeah. He's the prototype. I mean, he's the prototype for Hulk Hogan and Jesse Ventura. So,
and Jesse Ventura, rapping like Ali, you know, just, yeah. And it's funny because even as a kid, you know, they used to, and nothing against Bruno Sammartino, God rest his soul, but they always, you know, used to talk about him being the good guy and everything. But if you watched his matches against a lot of those people, all he ever did was kick and punch and kick and punch, and he never really did too many wrestling holds. And even as a kid, I used to sit there and say, well, geez, he's just as bad as the heel. What is, you know, what does everybody like him? You know, I know I was really big into the heels after that. I mean, I like Superfly Snuka when he was still with Albano and stuff like that. God, you want to talk about taking your life into your hands? I would go to see the shows at the Spectrum in Philadelphia, and I'm telling you, you think the Philadelphia fans, like the Eagles fans and everything, are hardcore? You go to the wrestling matches and root for the heels. I almost got attacked by this group of kids, and I was just sitting in the stand, and I think Jimmy Snuka was fighting Pedro Morales for the Intercontinental belt. Pedro Morales had the belt, and I was sitting there yelling, "Take that belt!" And these kids were turning around, "Shut up! Shut up!" I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah."
Oh man, I'm not gonna lie. About a couple years back, I almost got into a fight because the guy just like we were just giving crap. You know, it wasn't like it was an indie show. I knew the guy, and you know, it was like I personally knew the guy in the ring, and we were just giving. And this guy's like, no, and he's like getting. I'm like, you need to move that finger, dude. I'm not going.
Wow.
Like, I know you've had a couple drinks, but that's not going to save you from an ass whooping.
Well, isn't it funny how it's all come out about what wrestling is now, and people still believe it?
People are passionate about it.
Yeah. Like I said, it's good and bad.
Yeah. Well, what's neat is that me and my buddy were just talking about this. He got to go to ECW Arena to go see a show relatively recently, and he got to see Oneida versus Bully Ray. So the king of the Japanese death match versus Oneida versus and he got to drive over. He drove all the way over there, watched the match with his friends, and they all loaded up in the van and came all the way back. So they drove like 10 hours there and 10 hours back, and all they did was watch the event. But he goes, you know, we got to see this. I'm like, the only thing I've never been to Madison Square Garden. I've never been to the Sportatorium. I've been past the Sportatorium when I was a kid, evidently. I don't even remember it. You know, I've never been to ECW Arena. The one place that I've been was I was at a comic book convention in the early 90s in Atlanta. and they came in and they gave free tickets to go to the Omni
Oh my gosh!
to
Wow.
go see, WCW wrestling at the Omni. And I'm just sitting there, I was like, and I don't know what I expected, but I'd always heard, on wrestling tonight at the Omni, blah blah blah, and I'm like, the Omni was mythological to me, and then I get there and I'm like, oh no, this is kind of dirty, and and it was at the end of its life. It wasn't like it was so.
Oh, I mean, the Omni was the equivalent of the Garden.
Yep.
In Atlanta.
Oh, that's Slash right there talking to me.
Yep. Tell him I said hi. Tell him I said, how dare he interrupts my interview.
I will message him. So how long were you a ref for ECW before?
It was short. It was like I started like around 91 and I was done with it by 93. So it was only a couple of years.
Oh, so it was just at the very end of the Eastern Championship then, right?
Yeah. Like I said, a lot of people I knew when that started happening, they got out of it. Shh. Hey. It's one thing about a coonhound, I'll tell you. Very vocal.
Oh man, that's like that dog, my wife's dog. That dog got to be right there all the time. And my dog,
her, huh? Who? She's not eating it? Oh, well, then give it to her. I don't care.
Oh man, but
all right, what is he saying? Tell him.
I just say he's asking me when we can get it. It was like, can we do it early or late afternoon on Wednesday before 9 p.m.? If not, then we can do it next week. And I might be able to squeeze him in before.
You tell him you're interviewing me right now?
Yeah, I just told him. I said, Jack said, "How dare you interrupt his interview?" Let's see about Wednesday.
I'll tell you what, he's a great guy. Have you seen the post recently about what he sent my wife?
No.
That mask? Honey, can you give me the tourist trap mask? No, you get out of here. Get. Now, mind you, that you can see.
Hold on a second.
You can see back there, I think.
All right, well, turn it down.
All right.
Hear that? It's very, very loud. No. What is that? Yes.
Did they all eat?
My dogs can hear your cat, and they're like,
"Oh, really?" All right, you come on, go for now. As you can see, that poster behind me, I think you can see a tourist trap.
Oh yeah, the tourist. Yes,
my wife is a huge fan of it.
Oh, I love that
movie. Toby found a mask on eBay and then made that for her.
That is great.
Yes, yeah, I'll tell you what, he is something else. I mean, he created this it was a very generic mask, but from Tourist Trap. He's amazing.
Yeah, that whole costume he's got, man, is stupid good.
Man, he's great. Shh. Yeah, it sits prominently on her. Where's my? Let me show you something else he made me. I'll tell you what, he's again very generous. Let's see, we're gonna put this on so you can see it. Can you hear it?
Horror host, you got it upside down, but yeah, that's pretty cool. There you go.
Yeah.
Hall of Fame. There it is. Boom, right there.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah, he made that for me. I'm telling you, it's almost like getting a WWE ring, Hall of Fame ring. Yeah, he's a good dude. He's really good brother.
That's awesome. That's one thing I like about doing all this is because I've followed a lot of you guys. I've watched it, and now I'm actually being able to talk to you. And I a lot of them, I mean, like Hack and Dr. Zombo out, and I'm becoming friends with these people. I mean, and I've never met any of them in but it's cool. We're like planning to meet up sometime, and it's like just having a friend I haven't seen in a couple years, and that's what we talk like. And it's like, man, you having this whole discussion now. I'm like, literally, one of my best friends in school. We get together every once in a while. We talk wrestling. We grew up on wrestling. We're having almost the exact same conversation we're having now. So
I know the same thing with all these guys. It's either wrestling or horror, and I'm surprised how many are into both.
Yeah,
I mean, Matt Brassfield is, he's working with the wrestling crew.
Yeah, that's my friend's wrestling organization down in Dayton. Yeah, my buddy Gigi's part owner of it. So
yeah, it's funny. I had this wrestling show on the channel for a while. I'm trying to remember. I can't even remember the name of it now. I think it's on Lobo's OSI 74 channel on Roku.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really weird. This guy, Dustin, oh, I can't remember his last name. Starts with a P. And I can't remember the wrestling show's name, but what the hell was it? Well, I mean, to make a long story short, when I was going to have it on, Brassfield was like, "Oh, I don't like those guys. It's not like real wrestling. It's almost like they're doing." God, I wish I can remember what the name of it was. Well, anyway, guy approached me and I put it on the channel for a while, and I put it on at noon. I said, that's like when I used to watch wrestling. It was on. And one day I wrote him and I asked him for some new shows, and I never heard from him again. So I don't know, what it was all about, but he's on Lobo's channel now. So whatever.
All right. Here's Toby here. Let's see if you can.
But wait, I need my glasses.
There we go.
Could you put it down a little bit? Okay, LOL. Okay, yes. Yeah, he's cool.
Yep. Oh man, but it was funny is finding out that horror, wrestling, and comic books are like the big three.
Oh yeah.
And I am a horror movie wrestling fan that reads a lot of comics. There's boxes there. There's boxes there.
I wish I still had my comics. My God, I sold them all off a long time ago, and now I watch Comic Book Men, and I see a comic book come in there, and I know I had it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, $4,000." I'm like, "Oh my God." Same thing with the toys. G.I. Joe, Major Matt Mason. I had all that stuff.
Oh man, the one that killed me was when I was a kid. I had the big Shogun Warriors, the big giant Japanese robots, and I've been slowly buying them back. And then I found an ad for them from when they first came out when they were $11.88.
Oh yeah, geez. I mean, I have the Godzilla one here somewhere. I had a couple of those. With the fist wouldn't stay on. The fist would shoot, but you could never get it to stay on. Yeah, I know. I mean, gosh, I went to some convention and they had a G.I. Joe Foot Locker, and it had some stuff in it, and I was like, it was like $5,000, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me! Yep. I had all this, and back then it was like $1.99, to buy this, that, the other thing. I just heard thunder.
Yeah, I think I'm getting it here. Because it tells me on my computer that it is now raining. So,
which you don't care about because you're inside.
Yeah, and I'm in the basement, so I don't hear it unless it's really loud. I was at the gym working out, man. All of a sudden, man, I get up and I look, and it's just white outside the windows. I'm like, well, that's raining pretty hard. I guess I'm gonna stay here for a little longer.
What was the thing with Raul? It's funny you were talking about how long we've been on here. When he interviewed me, I swear we did like 2 hours. And then when he posted it, it was less than an hour. And I was like, dude, what'd you do with the rest of it? You can make a whole nother show out of that. What, And I don't even remember what we talked about,
Same thing with here. No, same thing. It was like, I think we were just shy of 2 hours. And I think when he dropped my episode, it was just over an hour. So I'm like, I did, I've done episodes that very rarely do I ever edit it. Because usually I just let it run, have fun. Cause I've told people, it's like my brain doesn't work linear. So to get from point A to point B, you have to see the whole entire conversation, or you're not going to know what happened.
Oh, I do that all the time. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I'm going to trim out like the dog and the kid and stuff like that, and I'll shorten it up a little bit. But I mean, we're 2 hours and 15 minutes, so it might be just shy of 2 hours. You're going to knock 20 minutes off of it, maybe at most.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't know how people edit them down. Like, oh, we talked for 4 hours. Here's an hour of our show.
Yeah.
Ow,
Exactly.
how do you
I'm
get
like, wow. I don't even remember what I said. I want to go back and know what was the rest of it. You know?
Oh
The
man.
hell else did I say?
Well, and see, when I first started doing this, came back, I did it as a podcast, and people were listening to, because we used to call it group therapy dinner and a podcast, and we would legitimately go to the Mexican restaurant. We would put my phone down in the middle of the table, and we would have a conversation about movies, video game, whatever what was going on. And people loved it. And people were like, man, I wanted to talk, and I felt like I couldn't get a word in edgewise. And I'm like, then I realized I'm listening to a podcast that I can't interact with. I was like,
I know, and to be honest with you, I'm happy to do these out of costume. You know, I mean, nothing wrong with it, but I mean, that's the way like Raul did it, and that's what attracted me to it. He was like, well, no, he goes, we're doing Monster Kid Origin, so you don't have to be in costume. I mean, I've done a couple of them. It's just, believe me, like I said, I like the fact that I have a unique look, but man, it's a pain in the ass, you know, to get all that, all that together sometimes.
I tell the guest, I'm like, it's all up to you. I was like, because I've had guests who want to be 100% in character for the episode.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So I did the questions, and that helps a little bit with the questioning, because then I can kind of, take it what direction it needs to go in. But to be honest, when they're out of character, but they acknowledge that they are the character, that is what works great, because then you can converse about, how'd you become the character, and how did you, like finding out that you had this wrestling background that slowly kind of did this, and then you made, and then some Jack comes out here at the end, and you can't get that if I interview Jack in full costume, because you want to keep Jack, you don't want him to be, the ECW referee or the manager, and then to get to here. And I don't mind either one. Like I just did Mr. Molto a couple days ago, 100%. He's in his costume, but he did it kind of like acknowledging that he was Jonathan. I'm like, do you want me to refer? He's like, I don't care, it's just, so I'm like, all right. So, and he'd go, well,
Jonathan, yeah, well, I think you have a lot more to talk about if you do it that way, or do it this way or whatever. Oh, I know. I mean, believe me. And again, I'm not going to name names, but I know people who are just so totally into character, and they will not break it for anything. I mean, look at it, as a wrestler, I know people that do that. That's fine. And they have to do that out in public. But I mean, look at, I'm doing this. I did it with Raul, and to me, I feel more comfortable like this. I feel like I can talk about this more as myself than anything else.
Yep. Well, because like I said, you don't have to just stay the course. You can go, well, this is how, because you're getting the origin of your, Jack, and without knowing your history, you don't know Jack's history. And I like doing it, but like I said, if people want to stay in character, I just,
I have hosts that come into chat that stay in character, and more power to you,
Yeah. Now, I need to ask you this. When you do your shows, was it just you? Did you have writers? Did you have people that helped work on the show? Or was it just always like you and maybe a couple people? Or
I had at any time like 3 or 4 guys that were doing it with me. 2 would run camera, one would, I had a director in the booth, and but then they all played characters too. You know, they all, and we had never written anything down. I mean, I used to take notes, and I knew when I went in there what I wanted to talk about, what direction. It was always improv. It was always off the cuff. I mean, some of the best ideas we had, we walked in to the studio, set up the set, and then suddenly said, "Oh, it'd be funny if we did this during this episode." I mean, it happened right there. And I've said this before, the worst episode I ever did was one that I wrote from beginning to end that was scripted. It was terrible just trying to follow that. Like I said, I'd have notes on trivia and stuff like that. That was my big thing, was the beginning of the show would be talking trivia. But then I always told the guys I wanted to do skits around the movie that we're doing. And that's what we always used to do. And again, I would get up there. I knew, what direction I wanted to go in, but it was all whatever came out of my mouth. And that's the way I did it.
Yeah. That's the way I like doing my show.
Yeah.
I had, it's funny because I got my notes, and this is legitimately so I got everything written down, and I just put notes, and I'll put like, okay, this is the episode, this is the whatever, this is the name of the episode. Then sometimes I put like more information down. Sometimes I'll have like, I hate to say this, I'll have the phone out with the information ready to go, so I can just kind of eyeball it and be like, oh yeah, this show came out in 1987 and it ran for 13 episodes, and do stuff like that. But I did an episode where I scripted it. I had everything, and I hated it. It's never seen the light of day.
I did too.
I trashed it and was like, all right, starting all over again. So I shot the entire thing off.
And I'll tell you what, here, let me show you. I do the same thing when it comes to the schedule for the Monster Channel. It's written. I don't do anything on the computer. This is the way I do it. Still pen and pencil, old fashioned. Yeah, that's a sneak peek of next Friday.
I would say this is a sneak peek but this is legitimately yesterday's show. So that's not cheating, because the only thing I don't have listed is like, because the commercials and stuff I put in there, I don't know what I'm gonna put in there until I'm like looking at it going, I don't know. It feels like it needs a PSA. That needs a commercial for.
Oh yeah, I mean, I do the same thing, because when I'm sometimes I like to run a movie that will fit in a whole either 90-minute or 2-hour frame, but then sometimes you get movies that are an hour and 15 minutes. Now, when I block out the channel, I always block it out in 2-hour increments.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's difficult when you have a movie that's an hour and 15 and you're doing it for 90 minutes. It doesn't sound like a lot, but 15 minutes of filler is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I do. I mean, I do it. I break the movie up into 4 pieces, and then I'm like, okay, let's pick this commercial, a trailer that either came out the same year as that movie or has something to do with that movie. Or yeah, that's the way I do it all the time. It's very off the cuff. I mean, as much as I have all the shows written down and planned out, the filler, that's you do that as you do it. You know?
Yeah. It's like the Saturday morning serial show is I leave that open for everything. So that's got like I said, commercials for cereal, toys. Sometimes I'll leave like a little kids cartoon movie in there, stuff like that. I do the PSAs and whatnot. I put that all in there. I even found like in the news, so I put those in there. But now like
my sci-fi, those.
Yeah. What was funny, because I think the last one I aired was about the hostage crisis in like 1978 or something like that.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, the
Iranian hostage crisis.
Yeah, because they had that on Saturday morning on a kids' cartoon. It was on CBS on a Saturday morning, and they were telling kids that this is. I'm like, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, and they did them like they were talking to the kids. It wasn't like they explained it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that. Wow.
I even posted those in there. And but now, like,
that was like the bicentennial moments. Remember, I don't know if you know, in 1976 when we were celebrating the bicentennial, they used to do the same thing. They had these little short bits that they would do. Same thing. Wow, TV was fun.
Oh,
yeah.
And then
it's no fun anymore. It was, and
well,
it was. I'm sorry. I mean, I know I sound old, but I'm I don't even have cable anymore. I don't.
I do because I watch me and my son watch Forged in Fire because it's like one of our favorite shows, and it's legitimately a show
Well,
where
I'm telling you,
they make weapons.
anything I want to watch, I find online. To be honest with you, I mean, I watch wrestling online. I don't even have cable. I mean, and I don't miss it, and I don't miss the price either. You know,
Nah.
it's crazy.
Well, what's funny is that the house that I have now it's 3 levels. This is my basement. This is my lair. Then the middle floor, which is the kitchen, the 2 bathrooms, and my mother-in-law and my brother-in-law live there because my mother-in-law was getting where she couldn't. She has some health issues and stuff. She can't get around real well, so we knew that she was going to have to live with us sooner or later. So we just bought a house now, moved her in. My brother-in-law has autism too, and he's severely autistic. He'll never ever be able to be out on his own ever. Nonverbal. But then we have the upstairs, and then that has 2 big rooms and a bathroom, and that's where my bedroom is, and then where Vince's bedroom is, and then where our like the second living room is, and that and with doing this, my mother-in-law is in the middle floor, but she believes in television. She has like every channel. She has like a bunch of the streaming channels. I'm like, I only need I got streaming channels, but she has them all. So I'm like, all right, whatever. I guess I have them all now too.
Well, the only thing that I missed about having cable was watching football, but now I can watch that on Peacock. I mean, it's like they have a lot of the games and everything. Because I'm a Bengals fan, believe it or not, and
But
I saw almost all the games last year. So I'm telling you, I don't miss cable at all. I mean,
what else is nice is that I took and I went out to my friend's shop, and a girl that was working there, she was mad because she was trying to watch the Saints game at the time. The Saints game wasn't on local television, and I'm like, have you tried going to the local station's website? She's like, what? I was like, go look up the NBC affiliate in New Orleans. She's like, okay, and boom, there it was. I was like, there you go. Watch it on your computer. And she's like,
well, same thing. You can go to NFL.com. I saw quite a few games on there.
Mm-hmm.
They were showing a lot of games. Like I said, I mean, hey, you want cable? That's your business. Yep. I don't miss it. It's been 2 years. I mean, it was like a freaking car payment. I was thinking, for what? I really don't watch much of any regular TV. Like I said, I watch wrestling, I watch football, and you can get like for $4.99, you can get what is it, Peacock or whatever those ones, and watch a lot of the new shows that are out right now. I mean, my having maybe HBO Max and Peacock and stuff like that. I mean, it's still only a quarter of what I was paying for cable, and I'm watching the same shows. So cable is robbery. I'm telling you, it's robbery.
Well,
it's like legal robbery.
That's like, I remember when they were like, oh, we're going to offer a la carte, so you can just pay for the channels you want. Yeah, but you still had to buy them in bundles. And I'm like, I don't want. Okay, so there's 10 channels. I only want History Channel, but I got to buy these other 10 that I don't want to get the History Channel.
Right. Well, that's what pissed me off. What they did with Turner Classic Movies, they took it off the basic and then put it on a sports package, and I'm like, what? And I loved watching Turner Classic Movies at Halloween.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They have a lot of great stuff on there, but I mean, I'm not going to pay for that. I mean, chances are I had the movie anyway, so I'll just watch.
Yeah, that's my wife hates it because I have thousands upon thousands of DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff.
Well, that's like I said. I did that interview with Raul, my top 20, which I called him a sadistic bastard for making me pick. I have 7,200 horror, sci-fi, fantasy DVDs, and trying to whittle that down to 20. I'm like, damn, man, you're killing me.
I tell people, I was like, well, they're like, what's your favorite movie of all time? I was like, my favorite movie of all time is Empire Strikes Back. I love Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. It's my favorite, but that doesn't count because it's a Star Wars movie. They're like, what? I was like, that's just part of my life. That's just part of who I am as a person. I was like,
yeah.
my other, I was like, I love the, original Halloween, the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Night of the Living Dead,
Mhm.
stuff like that. And everybody always tries to like, well, what's your top 10 movie? I'm like, what top 10 movie? Is it my top 10 slasher films? Is it my top 10 supernatural films? Or is it just my top 10 horror films? You guys don't,
Yeah, well, like I said, it was tough. It was
oh
tough
yeah,
to pick.
I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, I did.
I think
You know
about
what I told them? To really screw with people, I said, what you should do is make them pick their bottom 20 DVDs. Why did I buy this? Why do I own this? That'd be interesting.
Alien Covenant. I can put that in there because that's a movie I own just so I can have all the Alien movies, and I do not like that Alien movie.
There you go.
But I remember me and my son and one of my best friends were sitting in the theater watching Alien Covenant, and we're watching it, and I'm just like, and I just keep getting this like weird feeling. All of a sudden, I look at Joe, it ends, and I'm like, I don't think that was a good movie. And he's like, I was like, really? I was like, yeah, I don't think that was a good movie at all. And I had such high hopes for it because I'm as me and my son say, I'm a Prometheus apologist. I like the movie Prometheus. And then Alien Covenant come out. I thought, oh, we're going to get the extension of that movie. And then we didn't. And it was like,
wow.
Yeah. And
no, it's hard for me to say. I don't know. We were talking about Blair Witch. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to say it's one of my least favorite movies, but the hype about that didn't live up. The marketing was amazing. And, that whole website and that sci-fi special they did and everything, I thought that was great. But, I sat in the theater and I'm watching this and I'm like, huh? This is scary.
For me, Blair Witch Project, I still appreciate it for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's
not innovative. Yeah.
It's not something you can go back and rewatch. But I remember going to the theater for the midnight showing on a Wednesday night. This is legitimately the first showing anywhere locally. This is Wednesday night, midnight. Me, my wife, and my mother-in-law, because my mother-in-law wanted to see it. So I took her with us. We went and seen it. And I'm sitting there watching it. You go through the whole thing, and then it has the end. And I've never seen a theater just dead quiet. People weren't getting up. People were just like, what just happened? Was that real? And then I went into I'm in the restroom outside the thing, and these guys are standing next to me. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe those people let their kids get killed on film. And I'm just there going, these people got it. I was like, this movie worked. And like I said, it was.
Oh no,
yeah. But I think it was one of the ones you get to see it once in the right theater with the right group of people. And I got to see it at like the Apex, because if I would have seen it in a dead theater where people just do like, yeah, whatever, I don't think it would have worked. But it was with all the people who thought it was real in that theater, made it work. So.
Well, I said this in a recent interview. When I saw that sci-fi special they did the night before, I thought it was real.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it fooled me. Of course, that night I went to the website and then I realized, oh, wait a minute, this is all marketing. But I remember when they were showing that sci-fi special, I turned around to my family and said, when the hell did this happen? And how did I never hear about this? And I was like, holy crap, this is like, proof of supernatural shit going on. How did I not know? And then, I mean, to be honest with you, I was disappointed that it wasn't real. And I know that sounds mean, like you really wanted somebody to be dead, but it took me back to being a kid when it was like, you kind of got excited about something that it was like, damn, is this proof of, ghost or what? And then I saw the movie and I was like, oh man, I like the sci-fi special better because it made me feel, and again, you're right. I don't knock it. It was very innovative for its time and everything, but just didn't scare me in the least. You know, I don't, you know.
Well, my whole thing is that right now, like, and people give me crap for this, is I don't think the movie Hereditary was scary at all.
Thank you.
And okay,
Thank you.
legitimately, the big reveal at the end, people laughed out loud in the theater we were in.
Yeah.
And I have friends who are like, "Oh my god, it's one of the best movies. You got to go back and rewatch it." Maybe we're just with the wrong
I have
group of
friends too. Yep.
And I
I'm telling
tried,
you.
and I was like, it's an intense family drama that they tried to make supernatural at the very end. And I'm like, and I'm sitting there going, how is this kid not in jail? He was high and got his sister's head taken off. This kid should be in jail right now. They should be doing a whole movie about the family falling apart with their son in jail because he murdered their daughter.
Well, and I had friends who were raving about that movie, and I watched it, and you know what they said to me? Well, you must not have been paying attention then. You must not have gotten everything that was in the movie. And I said, I'm pretty sure I did.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can watch it. I've watched it a couple times. I think I can appreciate it a little more now. But it's like you said, and I hate this moniker. They did it with Paranormal Activity. They did it with the Blair Witch. I hate any movie that says the scariest movie in the past 10 years. I absolutely hate when they do that, you know? Yep. Sorry, here comes the train. I always say it's the Harvard Express coming by. I just hate when somebody says that. You know, it's like I said, I saw Paranormal Activity in the movies, and I'm like, this is scary. I have scarier stuff happening in my house than this film. You know, wow, you know. Again, I give credit to anybody who can make a movie and look at it, it made a ton of money, so they did something right.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, the worst part about with Paranormal Activity, I like the original ending better. Because I got a bootleg of it, and it had the one where she kills herself at the end, and she slams into the camera, and she's got this weird grin, and she like just cuts her, and I'm like, I thought that was scarier than the one that just leaves it ambiguous. And then of course we get the like 10 more.
Yeah, the end of this one was her just staring into the camera. Because wasn't there also, I think I had an alternative one where the cops kill her.
Yeah, the cops come in and shoot her. Yeah. Yep. There's 3 different endings. Yep.
Yeah. I kind of like that one better too, to be honest with you.
But
I don't know. I mean, I find it like really absurd that it was like, all right, night 2, the bathroom light went on and then it went off. Wow. You know, I mean, like I said, I had scarier stuff happen in my house than that, you know, so, and I don't believe in ghosts, believe it or not, I don't, but I don't know. Sinister was a good, that was like the first movie that has given me a creeps in a while, that I was watching it like at 2 a.m. and I actually turned the light on in the middle of watching the movie. And that's the first one in a while. That's why I'm looking forward to seeing The Black Phone, because I'm hoping it's as good as this. And I guess I'll find out. I'm going to watch it later. But I don't know. You become jaded, I guess. There's not much in the way of horror and then there's a lot of good horror out there. New, but I don't know. I haven't watched anything that's really grabbed me. And even Sinister's, you know, been around for a while now. But
10 years, somewhere in the ballpark.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, me and my wife had that discussion a while back because, you know, especially it was like right after Hereditary came out. I was like, are we jaded? Have we watched so much that it doesn't affect us anymore? And I went, no, because there's other horror movies that I've watched that are just, you know, freaky or creepy. Yeah, you get the ones that are, you know, the ones that make you kind of feel dirty, like your torture porn and stuff like that, which I'm not a fan of.
No, me neither.
But me neither. You know, there's the supernatural ones that really kind of still like put that little tingle in the back of your neck. And you know, there's ones and I watch Shudder all the time because it's, you know, there's pretty much everything you could kind of want to watch on there.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll try out a new movie and I'm like, that one didn't work. And the next one's like, that one's really pretty good.
Yeah.
I think one of the movies that I really liked that a lot of people didn't like just because it's kind of weird and it's a weird take, I guess, on zombies was Pontypool, which is the
Oh
one
yeah,
the DJs. He's just in that booth, and its entire movie is filmed in what, a 20 by 20 square.
yeah.
And
I like that movie too. I
that's,
enjoyed that one.
yeah, that's intense. And I'm like, that's one of the ones that you're like, you can feel like the intensity because
Yeah,
everything is just outside. I'm going to do this with my thing. Okay, everything that exists within this square. Then all the horrors of the universe are on this outside periphery, and they all want to kill you.
yeah.
And that's what that is. It's like you got that little intense area box with all those monsters trying to get in, and I like that one.
Well, and to be honest with you, one I just thought of that again, I wasn't expecting too much. Annabelle Creation. I think out of all those Annabelle movies, that one to me, I like that one a lot.
Yeah,
I thought that was really creepy. And again, you're right. I guess it's like the older I get, it's like you really have to stop and think, do I want to waste 2 hours of my life watching this? Right now, when you're a kid, you don't give a crap.
Yep.
When you're a kid, it's like, oh, you got all the time in the world. I don't know. I kind of feel now, do I want to give this movie? And it's a shame because you have to at least watch them because you will find, like I said, those hidden gems.
Yep.
I didn't expect much out of Trick or Treat, and I love that movie. Sinister, I was like, oh, whatever. I mean, there was a ton of supernatural movies out at that time. And Sinister was, oh, wow.
that's the Trick or Treat vinyl with the. I love that movie, and
That movie is so good. Yeah, that movie's great. And it's weird because, like I said, I mean, and I love the anthologies, and the problem is there's like so many of them out now, and I don't know, there's not many good ones. Tales of Halloween, I like.
Have you seen Scare Packages?
Did I? Yeah, I think I did.
That's a fun one.
Yeah, that one was pretty good. But there's so many of them now. It's just like everything else. Something good comes along, and then when Walking Dead started, how many zombie movies did you get? And not very good ones either.
No, when you had all the, because it kind of goes in waves. Like we had that one big craze where everything was vampires.
Vampires. Yeah.
Then it was the craze where everything was zombies. Then there was the craze where everything was the torture porn, the hostel, the all that stuff. And then you had the where everything was supernatural. So you had your essentially your knockoff of your the Warren universe stuff that they did.
Yeah.
And it's all like chunks. I mean, I was a manager at a video store for years, so I knew, I went through all that stuff. And I watched the worst of the worst movies all the way up to the best of the best movies. Because everybody would ask me, well, what's good? Well, it was part of my job, so I watch movies all the time. And I'm like, don't rent that one. Rent that one. You won't want that one because, like you said, it has subtitles. It's a great movie. Yeah. You're not going to like it because you got to read it.
I don't know though, but sometimes that's tough too because it's a matter of taste.
Oh yeah, well, it's the ones
my favorite holiday movie. I mean, I like A Christmas Story, but Chevy Chase's Christmas Vacation. I love that movie, and I remember the first time I saw it. A bunch of the guys I worked with at the time, I went in and I said, guys, you got to rent this movie and see this movie. It is hilarious. They came back in on Monday and they're like, you thought that was funny? Like, what? You didn't think it was funny? I mean,
I did the same thing with the movie Office Space. I didn't much care for Office Space the first time I watched it. And then like a few months later, I actually had a boss come up to me going, yeah, if you could just work this Saturday, that would be great. And I went, oh, it's like the movie. Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Well, man, I'm going to have to let you go because I've got to run to the grocery store. I realize that the dogs need food and the cats need food.
Oh my gosh, man. I spend more money on that than I do food for myself. You kidding me? Jeez.
Oh man.
Well, it was great talking to you.
Yeah, great talking to you. And anytime, man, we'll get together and do something and hopefully I'm gonna try to get down there for the match between Hack and Slash. Fingers crossed I'll be able to make it down there. But hopefully I'm going to try to get down to at least to one day at Horror Hound.
Yeah.
I'm going to I already had concert tickets for that Sunday. So, and I hate to say this, it's to a band that never comes to America. So I'm going to jump on that.
Who is it?
It's a band called Perturbator. They're synthwave. They let's see. All right, there we go. It's they do
Wow.
yeah, Dangerous Days was their but they're from overseas and they never do the United States and they're doing Detroit. So
wow.
I was like, I don't.
Dude, you buy vinyl?
Huh? Yeah,
I buy vinyl.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
I just got
there's so many vinyl records that I wish I still had. Jeez.
Well, I got some of my old stuff. Like we were just joking around about my son finding Metallica again. Like I've got my old.
Oh wow.
I have
Damn.
Master
Nice.
Puppets on vinyl. I've got Black Sabbath and anything from Def Leppard, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin.
Zeppelin. Nice.
Zeppelin's one of my favorite bands of all time.
Mine too.
And the funny part about it, there for the longest time, I had it on vinyl and cassette. I didn't have it on anything other than vinyl and cassette. I think I even had Led Zeppelin 4 on 8-track at one point.
Oh, I probably did too. I had a ton of stuff. I mean, same time. I mean, I'm a big Bowie fan.
Well,
And I had a lot of, my gosh, my collection. And stupid, see, I don't want to keep going on, but I'm just telling you, see, I did the same thing with DVDs. I had a ton of VHS, and when I started getting DVDs, I was like, all right, I'm going to get rid of the VHS. And unfortunately, the DVDs had different titles on them because they went like with, the perfect example is Eyes Without a Face. When that was out, it was called The Horror Chamber of Dr. Faustus, and I had that on VHS under that title. And I got the DVD thinking, well, that's going to be the title on the DVD. No.
Nope.
And I got rid, and I was pissed. And I did that with a lot of my stuff. And I'm regretting it.
Turn it down.
I don't want your dogs to starve.
Yep. All right.
So how long we've been on?
Just shy of 3 hours.
Oh my gosh. Wow, man.
This is going to be a two-parter. This is going to be a two-part episode.
I mean, and to be honest with you, hey, look, that's how you know it's fun, when you don't realize how long it's been. So,
oh man,
you know,
and this has been a blast. I can't wait to talk again and to talk in person next time. And you know, if you want to try about getting my stuff on the Monster Channel, I would be 100% cool with it. I don't know how much of it I can get on there, but it's
yeah, no, I mean the cartoon show, that'd be great. I mean, I do a cartoon show every Saturday morning at noon anyway. So I mean, I could either switch it out or have it on afterwards, or you know,
yeah.
I'd love, yeah. The hell with it. Like I said, I have ways of getting around things. So
cool.
You know, if it gets blocked on YouTube, I have, you know, we have a lot of our stuff for Roku stored somewhere else that it will not get blocked. So just keep that a secret. Don't put that in the interview. But
I've got 65 episodes, so that will take a long time before you burn through it. Yeah. I put out an episode every week for the last year.
Well, I mean, dude, if you're good with it, I'll put it on.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, some of them early episodes are only like an hour or like an hour and a half. Nah, this last one is probably just shy of 4 hours. So
wow.
Yeah.
No, I mean, if you're good with it, let me look at them. And
yeah,
I just had some guy from a puppet show get in touch with me too. I can't remember what the name of it is offhand, but he's got like 100 and some odd episodes too. And I'm like, geez, I should just start like a Saturday morning, you know, like have your cartoon show on, my cartoon show on, have Bobby the Bat. He does a thing called Saturday Morning Scares, and then this puppet show. Jesus, I can make it be like it was back in the old days. I could start it like at 8 o'clock in the morning and let it run till noon.
I
You
did
know,
before I go, I did one episode on our 1 year anniversary. So it was our 52nd episode. I did Saturday all day. So I started out at 7 in the morning with the old like 60s cartoons. So I did Sinbad Jr. and like Deputy Dog, ran a normal like Saturday morning block. Then I did Big Time Wrestling from Detroit. Then I did a Kung Fu
oh
movie.
wow,
So it was 8 hours. It was a total of 8 hours, like it would been when I in the
Wow,
1980s.
that's cool.
Yeah. And the worst part about it is I found
Well,
out
we
that
do Kung Fu too on Saturday afternoons. We do a Kung Fu theater because I grew up watching that too. Well,
me
before you
see.
go, like I said, now you've just inspired me, because usually what is on the channel from midnight to noon is repeating what was on the day before.
Mhm.
Maybe on Saturday mornings I could start doing original programming and do a block.
Yeah.
Of your show, my cartoon show, this puppet show, Bobby show. There you go. You
Yep.
just gave me an idea.
Yep, have at it, sir.
More work, but hey, what the hell?
Yep.
Doesn't want
So
But all right, man.
all right, man. You have a good day and
It was great. You have a
yeah,
great night.
have fun. And this has been a blast. And I can't wait to talk to you again.
Yes, it was.
And like I said, we gotta like go do something sometime when we're near, go get dinner or something. So
Uh-oh. Now see, I just got a weather thing on my phone.
Yeah.
Lightning. Okay.
no,
There
mine's
you
just
go.
still saying
All right,
raining
man.
now. So all right, man.
Well,
Well, you
thank
take
you so
care,
much.
sir.
It was great. You have a great
You
night.
too.
You too, Vince.
Yep. Say bye.
Have a great night, Vince.
No, he's like, I'm watching TV, Dad. So all right.
All right, man. Take care.
Later.
Good talking to you.
Good talking to
Later,
you.
man.
Big thank you to Halloween Jack for hanging out with us today on this extravaganza show. As always, Group Therapy TV is brought to you by RU Game, best comic book collectible, video game, toy magic shop located at 124 North Sunset Drive, Pickle, Ohio, 45356. And remember, every Monday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time for Group Therapy TV with all the coolest interviews. Every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Sci Fridays, and every Saturday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for Saturday Morning Serials. As always, I am your host, Paul, and I will see you next time. Take care, and I will see you all later. Bye.